You are watching Eswatini TV, Sibuko Semaswati.
A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to Eswatini TV. This is your favorite tele-education program, Home Study. My name is Lirato Mabilisa, and as always, I am not alone. I am with my colleague, Nogwazi Dlamini. Also joining me in studio are our sign language interpreters, Linda Mamba and Tobile Fagute. A very warm welcome and good afternoon to you, Nogwazi.
A very good afternoon to you, Lerato, and a very good afternoon to the viewers. Lerato, how's your day been today?
My day has been fantastic today. I'm really enjoying it so far. How's your day been?
My day has been awesome. Thank you very much. We're hoping that the grade 7s and the Form 3s and the Form 5s are looking forward to more learning today.
Okay, speaking of learning, can you please give us today's timetable?
All right, viewers at home, this is what today's timetable looks like. From now, which is 2 p.m. until 2:30 p.m., we have mathematics for the grade 7s. Then from 2:30 p.m. until 3:08 p.m., we have additional mathematics for Form 3. From 3:08 p.m. until 3:45 p.m., we have Siswati for Form 3. Then from 3:45 p.m. to 4:25 p.m., we have religious education for Form 5. Then the last subject for the day is English language from 4:25 to 5 p.m. for Form 5. So we hope that viewers back at home, Form 3s, grade 7s, and Form 5s, you are ready for learning today. Lerato, what about our social media platforms?
Well, we have YouTube and Facebook where we are live from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays, which is Monday to Friday. And if you have missed any episodes, do not worry, we got you guys. You can always go on our YouTube page and catch up on any missed episodes.
All right, speaking of YouTube, you can also subscribe on our YouTube page, Eswatini TV, so that you get any notifications for when we are live. Without wasting any time, Lerato will be right back with the grade 7 mathematics teacher, Sikhumbuzo Mabaso. We'll be right back after this.
COVID-19, yes, the coronavirus. It is now our daily talk. It is now our everyday breaking news. I think it's high time we all come together and make sure we bring an end to this. Because we can't sit down while it's still taking over. Let's all follow all the precautions given by the health department so that we can protect ourselves and also protect others.
I just wash my hands before I touch. I just close my mouth before I cough. And I just close my mouth before I sneeze. And I don't go to parties, that's a risk, yeah.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. I see. I close my mouth before I sneeze. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
I see. People going through a lot. I see. Coronavirus is a threat. I see.
Welcome back, grade 7s. I am Lirato Mabilisa, and I am not alone. I am with the mathematics teacher, Sikhumbuzo Mabaso, and today's topic is trial and check. It sounds very interesting, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? A very good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Lirato. How are you?
I'm alright. How are you?
I'm very good.
Okay, so today's topic is trial and check.
Yes.
What would you expect the learner at home to have learned by the end of the lesson?
By the end of the lesson, I'm expecting the learner at home to be able to solve word problems using the try and check method.
Oh, okay. So it
Yes.
sounds like it's going to be a very fun lesson for the grade 7s. Grade 7s, I hope you have your material ready, because right about now we are going to start our maths lesson. So you can begin the lesson.
All right. Maybe let me start by greeting the learner at home. Very good afternoon, learners. I hope you are ready with your mathematics book, people's book, together with something to write on and to write something to use when you're writing, your pens. First of all, the topic that we are dealing with today, it is the try and check, which is a very interesting topic that we are going to look at today, whereby we'll be given a problem, a word problem, then we are going to make those trial and check, guesses and check. Maybe first of all, let me state the importance of learning this topic or the rationale of this topic. One, this topic help us to develop critical skills, critical thinking skills. Two, it helps us to make reasonable estimations and guesses in a real life situation. Let us look at the vocab that we have to, or important words that we have to look at before we go on with the lesson. Words that we are going to come across frequently in our lesson. One, we have the word trial. Others might ask themselves, what is this trial? Trial is just to guess the answer or the solution. The other one, it is check. To apply, it means to apply the answer to the problem and check whether the problem has been answered correctly or not. Okay, now let's look at our introduction there. When you are using try and check to solve a word problem, you depend on the given facts to find the missing information. In a trial and check, we use our observation skills and accuracy in estimation. For instance, let us look at the first example there about Asavela and Mapila. Asavela is twice as old as Mapila. The sum of their ages is 18 years. Find the ages of the two boys. One, here we have to make a guess. First of all, we have to make a guess of ages. The word problem tells us that one Asavela's years is twice as old as Mapila. Therefore, it means that Mapila's years, when you multiply Mapila's years, you should multiply it by 2. You should be able to find the Asavela's years. For instance, if we look at our first example there, we have 5. We have 5 there. Under Mapila, we are making guesses because this is try and check. Our first trial is 5 and 10. Mapila is 5 years. Asavela is 10 years. Okay, 10 years. When you look at these years, they have a difference of 5. You can multiply 5 by 2 in order to get the Asavela's years, which is 10. Therefore, let us check that is our answer correct or not by adding the years of the two people or two boys. 5 plus 10 doesn't give us 18, as they said that it gives us 15. It means that 5 and 10 are not correct answers. We haven't guessed correctly. Okay, therefore when you compare the real answer there, the total, the sum of their ages, which is 18, and the answer that we got, the 15 there, you can easily tell that we have to take new numbers. We have to use other numbers that are a little bit higher than these ones, because the sum of these years is a bit lower than the answer that we are given there. Okay, therefore we made another guess there, which is 6 and 12. Let us check also the numbers there. We said there is a difference that is existing between their ages. The difference that is there, it is twice. Asavela's years is twice as old as Mapila. When you look at 6, when you multiply 6 by 2, you get the 12, which is the year of the years of, might be the years of the other. Okay. Now, when you look at this, these two numbers, 6 and 12, when you add 6 and 12, we definitely get something that is 18, which means 6 and 12 are correct in this word problem. One is 6 years. Mapila is 6 years old, and Asavela is 12 years old. Then our guesses has been correct. Okay, first of all, maybe before we move on to another example, I have to clarify that red equal sign there between 15 and 18, which has been cancelled. Okay, this sign there between 15 and 18, that sign is, it means that 15 is not equal to 18. Okay, it means that 15 is not equal to 18. When you look at the sign there between 18 and 18, below it, this one there, it is an equal sign. It is mostly used when you are talking about numbers that are equal or similar numbers. Okay. Now we know that when we come across such a sign, it means it means not equal to. Maybe let's move on to the first example there. We have another example there. First example there that says a rectangular garden has a perimeter of 56 meters. It is 3 times as long as its width. Find how long and the width the garden is. Okay, for instance, first of all, before we attempt the word problem, I would like us to draw a rectangle, because we are talking about a garden that is rectangular, so that our calculation can be based on that particular shape. First of all, let's have our maybe a rough sketch of a rectangular garden. Now we are saying the perimeter of the rectangular garden there is 56 meters. When you look at first of all, when we look at the perimeter, what is a perimeter? A perimeter is the distance around a shape. When we talk about perimeter, we're simply talking about the distance around a shape. When you look at our garden there, our rough sketch of a garden there, we have this side, and the top side there, the other one on the other side, then the bottom one. There are 4 sides, okay? Now, we are talking about a rectangular garden that has got 4 sides. And our word problem there says a rectangular garden has a perimeter of 56 meters. It is 3 times as long as its width or wide. Find how long and wide the garden is. Okay. Now, let us when we make our first guesses of numbers of answers, we have 6 meters there on the wide side or column, and we also have 18 meters there on the width column. When we put these two numbers on the length column, I mean, when we put these on our rectangular garden, this measurement on our rectangular garden, we have our 6 there, 6 there, and 18 up there, okay, and 18 down there. Now we have to check whether our guesses are correct or wrong. How can we check that? Because the definition of a perimeter says is the distance around the shape. We are going to add the numbers around our measurements around the shape. We have our 18 there plus our 18, which is the two lengths of our garden. There, 18 plus 18, we get something like 36 angithi. Therefore, we move on to add the wide of the garden, which is 6 and 6, which sum up to 12. Okay, then 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, which means 48. We are not getting 56, which is the perimeter. We get a number that is a bit lower again than the perimeter, which means we have to make new guesses, guesses that are a little bit higher than this one. That the other cases there, we have 7 meters and 21 meters on the length side. Therefore, we have to make this. We have to find out that is our guesses correct or not? Our guess correct or not? Okay. Let me draw again the rough sketch of the rectangular garden, which is a rectangular, and it must have a length which is 21 meters, width is 7 meters. Okay, 21 meters and 7 meters. Okay, now let us check that is the guess correct or not? The two sets of numbers, are they correct or not? How are we going to check? We are going to add the numbers around the shape, around the rectangular garden, which is 21 plus 21, we get 42. Then 7 plus 7, which is 14. Then we add the two numbers. We add the two numbers to find out that is our guess correct or wrong. As we said that we are dealing with a trial check topic. 2 plus 4 is 6, and 4 plus 1 is 5. Therefore, it means that our guess is correct here, because we are getting 56, 7, which means the wide of the garden is 7 meters and the length of the garden is 21 meters. Okay, now let's move on to example number 2. In this example, we are having Tivamile and Cebile. They are planting trees. Okay, now we will be looking at the word problem that is between Tivamile and Cebile. It says Tivamile and Cebile plant trees. Together they plant 115 trees. Tivamile plants 15 trees more. Tivamile plant 15 trees more than Cebile. How many does each girl plant? Now let's come to our guesses down there. We are making guesses on how many trees did each one plant. Okay, we have Tivamile there. We give her 60 number of trees, and according to our word problem, there must be in our numbers there must be a difference of 15. Okay, there must be a difference of 15. When you look at 60 and 45, there is a difference of 15 there. Okay, now the sum of their trees is 115. Therefore, let us add the two numbers and see what will be the sum of these two numbers. Are we going to get the 115 or not? When you add 60 and 45, we don't get 115, but we get 105. It also shows that we were just closer to the answer, to the real answer. Therefore, we have to make another guess, because this is a trial and check. We try or we guess, we estimate numbers, then we check that are these numbers that we have estimated correctly, did we make correct estimation or not? Okay, now the second set of numbers, we have 65 and 50. When you look at 65 and 50, there is a difference also of 15 because there is a difference of 15 there. All right. When you look at 65 and 50, there is a difference of 15. When we add 65 and 50, we get 115, which means Tivamile planted 65 trees and Cebile planted 50 trees. Now maybe after I have given you how to make the estimations, let me give you this topic, this word problem, so that you can also work out at home. And I will give you just a minute to do it. Then we will come back and see how did you do it. How did you come out with your answers? And I will then give you the expected solution. Okay, let me hand it back to Lerato.
Okay, so since you've given them an activity, I'm sure that they need time to do it. Yes. So can we take a quick commercial break or an infomercial, and we'll be back after the infomercial. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Grade 7s at home, let's take a quick infomercial whilst you do your activity.
Hi, my name is Professor Shabang. I am an actor and a TV presenter. Coronavirus is a deadly virus, an invincible enemy killing people all over the world. We are not exempted, but together we can walk through and overcome as a nation. All we need to do is to follow the health precautions. Stay at home, stop the spread, and save lives.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kuanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesiyimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngekubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Welcome back, grade 7s. We are still learning mathematics with Mr. Sikumbuzo Mabaso. And he gave you an activity before the infomercial, so I am sure, or I hope that you guys have completed it. Well, Mr. Mabaso, we have a question which says, do we show the working when writing the trial?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. Yes, working is very important in mathematics because it carries a lot of marks than the answers, even in examination situation.
Oh, okay, so I'm sure that the grade 7 learner heard that. Okay, so please can you continue with the activity, sir?
All right. Yes, I gave you something to do at home. An activity there that says tell about the same number of sandwiches as drinks. Each sandwich cost 24 emalangeni and 24 emalangeni. Each drink cost 12 emalangeni. She spent 72 emalangeni in all or in total. How many sandwiches did she buy? How many sandwiches did are there any responses from learners?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. All right. Okay. Now, let us look at the expected responses that towards the question, towards the challenge that I gave you. we said that there are sandwiches here. The word problem is between sandwich and drinks. The first guess, it was 20. The first guess, whereby we're using the cost price of the items. It is 24. When you add 24 and 12, we get 36. It is not equal to 72 Emalangen. Okay. Then we added another 24. We added another 24 Emalangen, another sandwich, and another drink, because the word problem say that the number of these items were equal. Okay. Then 24 plus 24. When you add 24 and 24, we get something like 48. And when we add the 48, we add it to 24 again, which is the cost price of the two drinks. We get 72, which means they were she bought two sandwiches. She bought two sandwiches. Okay, which is the same as the number for drinks. That is the expected answer to this question. We have to see, where did you try? Then we move to the correct answer. Okay, because there is no way there is no formula that you can just follow here. You have to make some trials. The topic says a trial and check. You try and check. You guess numbers as per the word problem. Then you check that are the two numbers giving you the expected sum or the expected answer or not. If not, we try another set of numbers. Okay, let's move on to the conclusion for the lesson. There are those things that are very important when you are dealing with word problems. I hope when you saw it there when I was showing you the word problems, there were words which were highlighted there. Okay, those words now, it means what? In a word problem, when you are dealing with a word problem, you should make sure that first of all, when you read it, you highlight the important point in a word problem. Okay. Number two, make a plan on how to solve it, or state the formula to be used in dealing with the problem. Three, then you work out the word problem by following the plan that you made. The last one, which is also very important, you check how reasonable is your answer in relation to the facts that you are given in that word problem. Before we as I've already summed up everything, let me give you a homework just to practice at home. The homework there, we have another word problem again that says Anne had 25 tickets to sell. She had 9 more tickets for children, 9 tickets more for children than the adults. For the adults, how many adults tickets did she have? This is your homework, and for more practices, please consult your pupils book, your books on page 47 to 48. Thank you. May I hand it back to Lerato.
Thank you very much, sir, for the lesson. I'm sure it was interesting, and I'm sure that the grade 7s enjoyed it. Up next is Nogwazi Dlamini, my colleague, who is going to be presenting the next subject, which is additional mathematics. So Form 3s, do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after the infomercial.
COVID-19, yes, the coronavirus. It is now our daily talk. It is now our everyday breaking news. I think it's high time we all come together and make sure we bring an end to this. Because we can't sit down while it's still taking over. Let's all follow all the precautions given by the health department so that we can protect ourselves and also protect others.
I just wash my hands before I touch. I just close my mouth before I cough. And I just close my mouth before I sneeze. And I don't go to parties, that's a risk, yeah. I see.
I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
I see. People going through a lot. I see. Coronavirus is a threat. I see. I don't go to parties, that's a risk. I see. I close my mouth before I cough. In case you're wondering, just wash your hands in case you handle things, and then keep an eye if you sneeze or cough, gotta keep it covered. I mean, who am I? Just a person living, wanna see you living, cause I value life. Eswatini, raise up, we gon' fight and conquer, cause we really got this. I see.
I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
Believe that some of the people you know can never be trusted at all. You gotta be cautious. Wash your hands more often. Can trust everything that we touch. And when you sneeze, you gotta make sure you cover your mouth, but not with your hands, cause you do not know who you gonna touch or what you have touched before all of that. Avoid meeting up with too many people for your own good and everyone else. You gotta make sure you keep it all clean. Watch how you maneuver, look after yourself. A hand sanitizer won't kill you. Make sure that you use running water. Just think of our brothers and sisters in the country and the ones that are outside the borders. Yeah.
I see. I wash my hands before I touch.
I see.
I close my mouth before I cough.
I see.
I close my mouth before I sneeze.
I see.
I don't go to parties, that's a risk.
Let's all come together and all say, not today, coronavirus.
A very warm welcome back to our viewers and a very good afternoon if you have just joined us. My name is Nowazi Dlamini and you are still tuned in to Eswatini TV and this is Home Study. And right at this moment we are doing Form 3 additional mathematics with Mr. Stembiso Dlamini. Also joining us in the studio are our sign language interpreters Tobile Fagutse and Linda Mamba. How are you doing, sir, today?
I'm okay, Nokwazi, and it's a good afternoon to the viewers too at home.
Yes, it is a very good afternoon, sir, and I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking. I understand that today we are doing simplifying algebraic fractions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so what are you expecting your learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Now, at the end of this lesson, I expect the learner to be able to distinguish between an expression and an equation, and also the learner should be able to simplify an expression and solve an equation, and also solve an inequality. And all this we'll be focusing now on algebraic fractions and equations.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Dlamini. From threes, I hope that you are ready for your lesson. And just to remind our viewers back at home that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to text us, please, on the WhatsApp number that will pop up on your screen from time to time. As Tembiso, you may begin your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nokwazi. Just to begin with the lesson, as I've just mentioned, today the expectation is that the learners at home are going to be able to distinguish it between an expression and an equation. To distinguish, that is to tell the difference. So that is important for the learner. Maybe now we can move on to introduce our lesson today. Now, what I'm having here now are just two columns here where we want to find out now the difference between fractional expressions and also fractional equations. As mentioned earlier on here, we want to distinguish between the two. So to start with now, algebraic fractions, we'll start with expressions here. We are saying algebraic fractions are fractions with letters here, as highlighted here. These are fractions with letters, so that we are spoiled now with the letters of the alphabet now. All of them here, we can use them now as the letter now in the expression. Now, what I have here are examples of what we mean by expression. The first example here is this one here. And then what we notice here is that there are going to be fractions here in all these examples that we'll be doing here. Now, the first example here is 2x minus 1 over 4, all over 4, minus x minus 2, x minus 2, all over 5 there. Now, what we notice here is that these are two-term numerators, as I've mentioned here. So these are two-term numerators that we have here. So this is an example of an expression. Now, with expressions here, there is no equal sign. Everything that you see and we say it's an expression, there will be no equal sign. There will be no equal sign. And then the next example that we want to look at here is this one that says 4 over d minus 4 minus 3 over d plus 5. What we see here is that now the denominators now have got two terms here, these denominators that we have here. So in the first example, we have the numerator with two terms, but in this example now, the denominator has got two terms in the fractions. And then now the most important thing about expressions now is that we simplify expressions. That is the instruction that we normally, and also another word that we use for expressions is that express as a single fraction. So those are the two words that are used now. So simplify or express as a single fraction. Now we want to look now to the fractional equations now. With fractional equations generally, there is an equal sign. Every time there's going to be an equal sign. And what we're doing, as we can see in this example here, the first example here is 5 over x, 5 over x plus 3 plus 3x over x minus 2 is equal, I'm sure you can see the equal sign there, is equal to 3. Now this is telling us that this is an equation because there is an equal sign. And then the next example here is 2 is equal, there is an equal sign there, is equal to 5 over 4 minus 3 all over 3 over 2a minus 3. So this is the equation that we see here, and we say it's an equation because there is the equal sign there. And then now the word that we use now when dealing with equations is we solve an equation. So I'm sure you can now tell the difference between the two. With expressions, we say simplify the expression. With equations, we say we solve the equation. Solving the equation, that is, we want to find the value of the variable. Now, moving on, we want to look now at an example where now we are simplifying an expression. We want now to simplify an expression. Algebraic fractions are simplified like numerical fractions. Numerical fractions, we mean those with just numbers only, like 1 over 2, 3 over 2, and so on and so forth. It's only numbers only. Remember, we said algebraic fractions, they've got letters, but numerical fractions, they don't have the letters. So we are saying algebraic fractions are simplified like numerical fractions. Maybe we can look at an example now. The first one is saying, example 1, simplify the following fraction. And I've also included the other instruction here in red to say express as a single fraction. It means the same thing. Simplifying and expressing as a single fraction means the same thing. So the fractions that we want to express a single fraction is 2x minus 1 over 4 minus x minus 3 over 5 here. So this is the algebraic fraction that we want to simplify. Now, like I mentioned here, that we use the same strategy when simplifying numerical fractions. Even here, we are going to look for the denominator, the lowest common denominator now of these fractions. And then we know that these are the denominators. 4 and 5. Now the lowest common denominator 4 and 5 is 20, as we all know. So that now we want to express these fractions now under this common denominator, which is 20. And this is how we normally do it. We're going to write the 20 there, and then now the fractions. And then we need to now multiply. In order for us to write as a single fraction, we need to multiply the numerator now. So, and this is how we do it. We divide LCM by the denominators and multiply the numerators by the result of the new, to get the new numerator, sorry. So that now, this is how we look at it. We normally say these 4 into 20 goes how many times? 5 times, because 4 into 20 means 20 divided by 4, and then we are going to get that it is 5. It means, therefore, the first fraction, the first numerator of it means the numerator of the first fraction is going to be multiplied by 5. And then now the second one, now we're going to say 5 into 20, meaning 20 divided by 5 is going to give us 4 here. It means, therefore, we are going to multiply the numerator of the second fraction by 4 here. I'm sure now you can see that we have done that step here. We have multiplied by the 5 here, the first numerator, and then we have multiplied the second numerator by the 5, and this is all over the common denominator, which is 20 there. And then now the next part that we need to do, it is to remove the brackets here. 5 times 2x there is going to give us 10x, and then 5 times negative 1 is going to give us negative 5. And then we move on to the second bracket in the numerator. Negative 4 times x is going to give us negative 4, and then negative 4 times negative 3 is going to give us positive 12. As shown there, it must be emphasized here that remember I said negative 4 times negative 3. That's why we always emphasize that whenever there is a negative sign in front of the brackets, it's going to change the signs inside the bracket. So I'm just emphasizing on that. And then after doing that, we're going to collect like terms here. Collecting like terms, you can see that 10x and 4x are like terms here. So it's going to be 10x minus 4x, which is going to give us 6x there. And then negative 5 plus 12 is going to give us positive 7. So that now in the numerator we're left with 6x plus 7 all over 20, which is our answer here. Hence we have now simplified these fractions now, and we have one denominator there. Now I've also highlighted here that we should note that we maintained the same denominator, which is 20 in all the steps. So make sure you don't lose that denominator. Every time you move to the next step, the denominator must be there. The common denominator must be there. Now let's move on and look at another example where we are expressing as a single fraction. Now we're going to look at a case where we have got a denominators that are that have got 2 terms. The example here is the instruction is expressed as a single fraction, and the fraction, the first one is 4 over 2 minus d minus 3 over d plus 5. Now the first thing, like we do with numerical fractions, we are going to look for the LCM. And the LCM, the denominators here are d minus 5 and d plus 5. The LCM is going to be the product of the denominators here, which is d minus 2 times d plus 5. Now we then express the fraction now with the lowest common denominator, which is this here. Hence we have done this step. Now we must divide the LCM by the denominators and multiply the numerators by the result to get the new numerator, like we did in the previous example. So it means, therefore, we're going to say d minus 4 into d minus 2 times d plus 5. And that is the same as dividing. That is dividing d minus 2 times d plus 5, like I've shown in this step here. So we are dividing there. We are dividing d minus 2 times d plus 5 over d. Now, as shown here, the d minus 2 are going to cancel, and you'll be left with d plus 5, which is going to be the factor that we are going to multiply the numerator of the first equation. So it's going to be here. And then now we divide also. We are going to say d plus 5 into d minus 2 times d plus 5, like I've shown in this step here. So this is the common denominator, and then we are dividing it by d plus 5 here. And then if we do that, the d plus 5 are going to cancel as shown here, and we leave with d minus 2. And then we're going to use the d minus 2 to multiply the second, to multiply the numerator of the second fraction. And then this is now shown in the next step here. You can see here we've multiplied the numerators. And then now what is left, it is to open the brackets now, and then it is to open the brackets and then collect like terms. So if you open the brackets here, 4d is going to be 4d, 4 times 5 is 20, and then minus 3 times d is going to be 3d, and then minus 3 times minus 2 is going to be positive 6. Now we collect like terms. You can see here that 4d and minus 3d are like terms, and then 20 and 6 are also like terms here. 4d minus 3d is going to give us d, and then d plus 6 is going to give us 26, which is now in its simplest form here. It means now this is our solution here. We are able to simplify those two fractions now, and then now they are having one denominator. Moving on now.
Can I interrupt you? Could we take a bit of an infomercial break? Maybe just to take a little bit of a breather. Viewers back at home, could we just take a little bit of a break? We'll be right back after this.
Unfiltered. A talk show that will reveal the emotional hustle behind the fame.
I was bullied to the core that I felt worthless.
We read about them.
Yes, chef.
We see them on stage.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining.
We watch them on TV. But depression does not discriminate. Help for all. Fame. Unfiltered.
Welcome back to our viewers. You are still tuned in to Home Study on Eswatini TV. I am Nogwazi Dlamini. If you have just joined us, we are doing Form 3 Additional Mathematics with Mr. Stembiso Dlamini. Stembiso, without wasting any time, I'll let you carry on with your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nogwazi. Now, viewers and learners at home, we are going to move on now to look at what we call now linear fractional equations and inequalities. We are going to treat this thing in one step, the equations and inequalities, because we use the same steps to solve these two. Now, moving on to solve equations, I put stroke inequalities here because we'll be taking it at once. To solve equations, stroke inequalities with fractions, we follow the following steps here. Step number 1, we find the lowest common denominator, which we call the LCD. And then now the next step is we clear the fraction by multiplying all the terms using the lowest common denominator. And then the next step would be we collect like terms on both sides of the equal sign or inequality, and then we make the variable the subject. We shall be explaining each of the steps now by means of an example. Now maybe that's the example that we're going to do here. Please do correct here the typo error here. So it's supposed to be, sorry, let's correct the typo there so that you always get it right. So thank you very much for that. And then now this one is saying solve the equation 5 over x plus 3 plus 3x over x minus 3 is equal to 3. Now the first step, remember, we are saying we need to find the LCM. So the LCM here, the denominators that we have is x plus 3, x minus 1, and x minus 2, and then there is over 1. There is over 1 there. So whenever there is just this constant 3, we know the denominator there is 1. So that now we need to find the LCM now. So the common denominator for these fractions here is going to be x plus 3 times x minus 2. There is the 1 there, but we normally don't put it, okay, because it's also part of the denominators, but we don't put it, as you know. And then now, so we know that this is the LCM. It's normally the product of the denominators, like that. And then now the next step is to multiply all the terms now on both sides of the equation using the lowest common denominator, or lowest common multiply. And then this is what we have done now. Everything that is in red, we have multiplied all the terms. The first here, the first term, the first fraction was 5 over x plus 3, and then we multiplied with the LCD, and also the second fraction is 3x over x minus 2, which is this, and then we multiplied it using the lowest common denominator. And then now, after multiplying out, there will be certain expressions that are going to cancel. For instance, in the first fraction here, we have got x plus 3 in the denominator there. It's going to cancel with the x plus 3 there, and then we'll be left with 5 times this bracket, which is 5 times x minus 2. And then now in the second fraction here, the x minus 2 is going to cancel with this x minus 2 there, and then we'll be left with this 3x multiplied by x plus 3, which is shown there. And then now on the right hand side of the equal sign, we had only 3. Remember, we had only 3 here, and then we multiplied by the lowest common denominator there, which is there, and then it is still there. Now we can see that we have cleared all the fractions now. The next step now will be to open the brackets and then collect like terms. Now if we do that, multiplying the first bracket here, 5 times x is going to give us 5 times that is going to give us 5x minus 10, and then the second bracket, 3x times x is 3x squared, and then 3x times 3 is 9x. So, and then on the right hand side, opening the brackets, x times x is going to give us x squared, and x times minus 2x is going to give us minus 2x, and then 3 times x is going to give us 3x, and then positive 3 times negative 3 is going to give us negative 6 there, and then we put that in brackets because it's going to be multiplied by that 3. And then now we collect like terms in this bracket there. Then we're going to have x squared plus 3 minus 6 there. And then now the next step is to multiply out this bracket like we've done here. 3 multiplies everything in that bracket, so it's going to be 3x squared plus 3x minus 18. And then after doing that, now we've opened all the brackets. Now we are going to collect like terms now. And then what we are going to do on the left hand side here, we can see that we have got 9x and 5x, which are like terms, and then when you add those, you're going to get 14x, and then so you'll be left with 3x squared plus 14x minus 10 on the left hand side of the equal sign, and then on the right hand side we still have that. And then now we subtract 3x squared both sides, and then if you do that, we have subtracted the 3x squared, we have subtracted the 3x squared, and then now if that happens, these 3x squared are going to cancel, and also on the right hand side are cancelling, so that now we are left on the left hand side with 14x minus 10, and then on the right hand side we are left with 3x minus 18, and also we continue now with our collecting like terms. We subtract 3x both sides and then add 10 both sides. Now if you subtract 3x from 14, if you say 14x minus 3, we are going to get 11. And then now if you add 10 both sides, because you can see from here, if you add 10, it's going to be 0. So there will be no constant on the left hand side. If you add 10 from negative 18, you're going to get negative 8. And then now we continue, we divide by 11 both sides. Now after dividing by 11, now x, 11 and 11 are going to cancel, and then on the left hand side we're left with x, so that the solution is going to be x is equal to negative 8 over 11. We can also look at an example now that is going to include an inequality. Like I mentioned here, inequalities are solved like equations. So we're going to follow the same steps that we mentioned earlier on. Now what is very, very important now, an addition now with inequalities, is that the inequality sign changes direction. That is, it reverses direction whenever you divide or multiply by a negative number. That's very important. We shall see here, we shall illustrate that as we proceed with this example. Now, so the example is saying solve the inequality 1 over 2x minus 7 over 10 is less than or equal to 3 over 5x. You can see from here that this is an inequality because of this sign here. That's the only difference. With equations, we are going to have an equal sign, but with inequalities, we have the inequality sign. And then now, like we did with equations, we need to find the LCM now of the denominators here. So the denominators that we have are 2x, 10, and then 5x. Now the lowest common multiple of that is going to be 10x here. Now if you see 10x now is divisible by all the three. It's divisible by 2, divisible by 10, and divisible by 5. And then now the next step is we need to clear the fraction. And to clear the fraction, we multiply all the terms by the LCM. Like I have mentioned here earlier on, that we multiply all the fractions with the LCM. So we have done that here. We multiplied everything. What is in red here is the LCM 10. And then now we have done that, and then I'm sure there's going to be cancelling that is going to take place here, because 2x into 2x goes once, and 2x into 10x goes 5 times there. So that now this has cleared. Now we're only left with 5 there, and then 10 into 10x there, we are going to be left with x there, and x multiplied by this 7 there. So we are going to have 7x there. And then now on the right hand side of the inequality, 5x goes once here, and then it goes twice there. So we'll be left with 2 times 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So that now we need to then collect like terms, and we can start by subtracting. We subtract 5 from both sides, and then we have subtracted the 5 from both sides. If you subtract 5 here, you'll be left with negative 7x, and then 6 minus 5 is going to be 1. And then now, because we must leave the variable on one side, and our variable is x here, we need to continue now, and then we're going to do that by dividing by negative 7 both sides. Now remember, we said now with inequalities, we said whenever you divide or multiply by a negative number, the sign reverses. So we're going to divide by negative 7 both sides, and we have done that. Now whenever we divide, now you can see that the inequality sign now has reversed direction. Previously it was less than or equal to, now it is greater or equal to. So we have done that, we have reversed the sign. So that dividing by 7, the left hand side will be left with x, and then the right hand side is going to be negative 1 over 7. Now it is also very important to mention that we don't replace the inequality sign with the equal sign. Normally maybe learners are confused by the fact that we say we use the same method to solve inequalities as in equations, but that doesn't mean we need to replace the inequality sign with the equal sign, because if you do that, you are going to miss that crucial step where now we are dividing by a negative sign, where we need to reverse the inequality sign. So make sure you don't replace the inequality sign with the equal sign. Now let's just summarize our lesson here. Now remember, we said now our objective was to be able to distinguish between simplifying an expression and solving an equation. Now, with simplifying an expression, we say the first step, you find the LCM and then express fraction with common denominator, and then collect like terms with expression, and then write as a single fraction in its simplest form. It's also very important to mention the simplest form. And then now the term or the word that we use for expressions is that we simplify expressions. And then with solving equations or an equality, we find the LCM. And then after finding the LCM, we multiply all the terms by the LCM to clear the fraction. Sometimes learners are going to use the word get rid of the fraction, but maybe the proper way to use is to clear the fraction, because if you clear the fraction, you are going to follow the right steps now. But if you just get rid, other learners, they just get rid anyhow. So it's very important to use the right one, clear the fraction, and then collect like terms, and then make the variable the subject of the, because when you're solving an equation, you must know the variable, the value of the variable. And then now the word that we use for equations, now we solve equations. Okay, so it's very important at the end of it all, you must know what is the value of the variable. So I'm sure now you can distinguish between simplifying an expression and solving an expression. The last thing that we are going to do now is to look at this activity here. We just took a few questions now from past examination questions here, so that you can practice. The first one is solve the equation 2 plus 3h over 2 plus h minus 3 over 4 is equal to 2. It is taken from the examination in 2014, October-November examination, and that is number 5D. Okay? And then the next one is also taken from October-November. That's number 5E here, where you are to solve the inequality. So that's the inequality that we have there. So we are going to solve that one. And then the last one is taken from last year's examination, 2019, and that is number 2B. Number 2B is saying express as a single fraction. So these are the fractions 2 over x minus 1 minus 4 over 2x plus 1. And then now try to solve these ones, but there's also plenty of exercises now in chapter 21 now of your textbooks that you are using. So use that to practice, and also do consult now other pages like the MTN Educare page there, where you have got the solutions and also more examination questions that you can practice on. With me, I hope you have been able to follow the lesson. Thank you very much, and we shall meet next time.
Thank you very much, Stembiso. We're looking forward to seeing you again for another additional mathematics lesson. Thank you so much, and we hope you'll have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, Nokwazi. Have a lovely one too.
Thank you very much. Form 3s, do not go anywhere. Up next is my colleague Lerato Mabilisa with the Siswati Form 3 teacher Ngobile Gwebu Gumbi. We'll be right back after this.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Pay your TV license for being in possession of devices such as television sets, DVDs, VCRs, monitors, and more. You are reminded that payments of TV licenses is due on or before the 31st of December every year. 180 Malangeni per year for individual or business viewership, 300 Malangeni for television trading license, and 50 Malangeni for other devices. You can pay for your TV license through MTN Mobile Money, Eswatini Mobile Imali, NetBank, and Eswatini Telecom. Visit us at the television license offices at the Madlenya House, Babane, or call this number 3434 1234. Pay yours every year.
Ngikwebungele mbukeli eluhlelweni lwethu lekufunza usekhaya pheceleti i-home study. Libito lami ngingulirato wakamabilisa. Kanti ke angihambi ngedva njengenhlala yenda, ngihamba naye thishela wesiswati Ncobile Gwebu Gumbi. Namuhla ke mbukeli sitabe sifunza ngayo indzaba lecocako. Ngikuvusele thishela ngikwemukele. Ehlelweni lwethu lemfundo.
Ngiyabonga lerato kakhulu ngiyamukela, ngiyavusela nawe.
Ngicela usitshele ukuthi sidabe sifunza ngani namhla ngoba ngathi khona liphutha lengilendile.
Namuhla mfunzi ekhaya welibanga lemfica sidabe sifunza ngakubhala kwendzaba lechazako.
Oh okay. Umfunzi ubhekeke ukuthi abe afunzeni ekupheleni kwalesifundo sanamhla.
Inhloso yesifundo sethu sanamuhla mfunzi wekuthi ulolongeke ucecesheke kahle ukhone kubhala indzaba lechazako lehleleke kahle ulandzele tonke linyathelo letidzingekile.
Ngaphandle kwekucitha isikhathi asikhwele endzabeni.
Ngiphinze ngikwemukele mfunzi ehlelweni lakho lekufundza usekhaya lokumukela ngiyethishela wakho wesifundo sesiswati Ncobile Gwebu Gumbi. Mfunzi lapho ekhaya namuhla sithabe sifunza ngayo ikubhala kwendzaba lechazako. Ngiyethemba ukuthi sowulungele sowusilungele isifundo sakho sanamuhla sowukulungisile kwekubhala nekwekubhalela. Ngidawuthemba ukuthi sitawuhambisana kahle ukhone nekuthi konke lokhu lesitabe sifunza ngako namuhla ube sowukhonile ukubamba ekupheleni kwalesifundo. Kunana imigomo ke mfunzi lengifuna siyibuke namuhla kanye imigomo yesifundo sethu lekumele ukuthi ube sowukukhonile ukubamba noma ukhone ukukwenda nakuphela lesifundo sethu sanamuhla. Umgomo wethu wekucala mfunzi kubheke ukuthi ekupheleni kwalesifundo ukhone ukuchaza ukuthi iyini indzaba lechazako. Kwesibili mfunzi ukhone kwehlukanisa indzaba lechazako kuletinye tinhlobo tetindzaba. Bese kwesithathu mfunzi ukhone kulandzela tinyathelo tekubhala indzaba lechazako. Kwesine ukhone kukhetha lulwimi lokumele ulusebenzise nangabe ubhala yona indzaba lechazako. Bese kwesihlanu uhlele kahle emaphuzu akho lahambelana nemibuto lotabe ubudwe wona. Bese kwekugcina mfunzi ukhone phela kubhala indzaba lechazako nalehlamsako. Ngoba lendzaba lena mfunzi yiyona ndzaba lesiye sihlolwe ngayo ephepheni lethu lekucala kusicephu A. Lapho khona ukhanza kwekuthi kunaletinye tinhlobo tetindzaba letifake ekhatsi indzaba lecocako, tifake ekhatsi indzaba mpikiswano, tifake ekhatsi inkulumiswano, tifake ekhatsi yona lena lechazako kanye nalenika lwati. Kuyakusita ke mfunzi lokuthi ukhone ubona kwekuthi nguyiphi lena lechazako naseyihlanganiswe kanye naletinye tindzaba. Asichubeke ke mfunzi sibuko sifundo sethu sanamuhla. Sitawuqale sibuke ukuthi iyini yona lendzaba lechazako. Nasichaza nje indzaba lechaza kusithi iyini lolu luhlobo lwendzaba mfundzi lolu dinga ukuthi lo bhalako achaze info ngemagama lakakha sithombe emcondvo saloko la kuchazako. Kunana ligama ke mfundzi lengifuna silinake ligama lelithi sithombe emcondvo. Nasikhuluma ngokuthi na usabhala indzaba yakho kumele wakhe sithombe emcondvo kulona lofunza lendzaba yakho. Sisho ukuthi lento kufuna ayibone ngemehlo engcondvo ngalendlela lotabe wena uyichaze ngako. Lokunye mfundzi sisachaza yona indzaba lechazako dinyenti ke timvo longa tingachazwa kulolu hlobo lolwendzaba la ngakucela umhloli ukuthi ukhone ukuthi utichaze. Bangakucela ukuthi uchaze umuntu. Mhlambe leyo mbuto ungacela ukuthi ukhone ukuchaza indlu noma sakhiwo thide sangasenzaweni yakini. Lokunye mfundzi longabhekeka ukuthi ukuchaze kungaba ngesophela sendeko. Lokungaba ukuthi ngumgidvo lo thide lo wake waba kuwo noma umngcwabo lo thide nalokunye nje lokunyenti mfundzi la ngakucela umhloli kwekuthi umchazele kona mangabe akucelile ukuthi ubhale lo hlobo lolwendzaba. Kulolu hlobo kolwendzaba mfundzi kufanele uchaze ngendlela yetawenda ukuthi lo muntu lona lebeka ngekho kulesendeko noma loyo longayati lendlu noma lo muntu umchaze ngendlela yetawenda ukuthi aze ambone ukuthi noma angachamuka lo muntu abone ukuthi nangu lo muntu lengake ngachazelwa ngaye ngalelinye ilanga. Lo bhalako ngalamanye amagama wakha sithombe kunangu losuke afunza lendzaba. Ngamagama lesiwabita ngekuthi dithombe emcondvo. Letithombe emcondvo magama lathinta imiva lefaka ekhathi lokuvakalako, lokunye kungaba ukuthi kuyavakala, lokunye kungaba ukuthi kuyabonakala, lokunye kungaba mhlambe ngiloko lokunambithekako nalokuhoshekako. Lamanye amagama la ngakusita mfundzi wekuthi usabhala yona indzaba yakho ibe nesici ilandzeleleke kahle ngiyophela emagama lesiwabita ngekuthi adenda kuthi nawo ayayenda indzaba yakho wekuthi usayibhala nje ukhanzi wekuthi seyinesici lesithide iyakhona ukuthi ilandzeleleke kahle. Kunesibonelo ke mfundzi lengifuna ukuthi ngikubekisele ngaso asengithi nje ukucelile loyo tishela wakho ukuthi ubhale indzaba uchaze umuntu lo wesabekako. Ungabe mhlambe wako wambona noma ngumuntu lo wesabekako kuleyo ndzawo yangakini. Ungachaza usho ukuthi lo muntu loyo ushile umhlaba. Loko kusithombe emcondvo lesibonakalako ngoba mina lengingamati lo muntu leligama lelithi ushile umhlaba selivele liyangichaziselela kahle ukuthi mudze lo muntu ngesithombo sakhe. Lokunye mhlambe ungachaza ukuthi utibatibati ebusweni noma ke esweni lakhe langasekudla kuvundle ngehle yesilonza. Naso leso sithombe emcondvo lesibonakalako noma ngabe lo muntu angekho la embi kwakho kepha soyakhona ukuthi umcabange umbone ngemehlo engcondvo ukuthi hayi lo muntu lona unedibatibati la ebusweni bakhe. Lokunye longamchaza ngako ungamchaza ngelivi nakakhuluma kwekuthi livi lakhe nakakhuluma ngathi kubhodla ingwenyama. Loko kusithombe emcondvo lesivakalako ngoba so uchaza indlela la kakhuluma ngayo. Ngalamanye amagama mfundzi ngisho ukuthi konke lokhu lotabe ubhala ngako kulendzaba lechazako kumele kube ngilokwakha sithombe kunangu lotabe afunza yona indzaba yakho. Ngiyethemba ke mfundzi sisahamba kanye sisitawungena sibuke dona tingoni phela tekubhala indzaba lechazako. Sitawukhumbula ke mfundzi ukuthi esifundweni sethu lesendlulile lapho khona kwakwetfulwa kubhalwa kwendzaba sakhuluma ngetingoni letine lesinato tekubhala indzaba. Ingoni yekucala lesakhuluma ngayo kwaba sihloko ukuthi yonke indzaba kumele ukuthi ibe nesihloko. Lenye ingoni yesibili lesakhuluma ngayo mfundzi ngiwo phela singeniso ukuthi indzaba yonke kumele ibe naso singeniso. Bese kwesithathu umtimba indzaba kumele ibe nawo umtimba bese kwekugcina kuba siphetho. Indzaba lepheleleke mfundzi iba naletingoni leti lesengitibalile letine lekumele ukuthi nawuyibhale kahle ufuna ukuthi diphelele kahle tonke. Asichubeke ke mfundzi wami sibuke ukuthi isihloko ke lengoni yekucala lesihloko khona senanjani nasisabhala lendzaba lechazako. Esikhathini lesinyenti mfundzi sihloko uvele usithathele embutweni. Umbuto losuka ubutwe ngawo kuyendeka uvele nje ukunike sihloko njengoba senjalo. Kuyavama ukuthi uvele ukunike kulesinye isikhathi sihloko lesiconze nje ngco lesingadzingi ukuthi ungede noma unciphise emagama. Sitawukhumbutana ke mfundzi ukuthi sathi phela nasibhala indzaba lechazako noma nasibhala nje indzaba isihloko sefu kunendlela lekumele sisigcamise ngayo. Lesihloko sefu siyasibhala lapha ekhasini lethu lapha etulu usibhale ngeluhlavu lolukhulu na ukhethe loluhlavu lolukhulu awudwebeli lelesibita ukuthi bofeleba awukabhekeke ukuthi usidwebele lesihloko sakho. Kepha ngabe mfundzi ukhethe ukuthi ubhale ngeluhlavu loluncane uya lapho ubhekeke ukuthi usidwebele noma kanjani sihloko sakho. Ngintona indlela letimbili longagcamisa ngato sihloko sakho. Sengishito ke mfundzi ukuthi kuba ngawe ukuthi ukhetha siphi sihloko noma indlela yokugcamisa sihloko sakho. Ngiyethemba nawe lapho ekhaya sewuvele ulungisile liphepha lakho lekuthi phela nawe ubhale nasi sihloko lesitawufunza ngaso namuhla lapho khona sitawuqale sifunze noma sichaze indvodza ledvumile emangweni wangakithi. Kunesihloko sami ngemfundzele ngophathele sona lesithi indvodza ledvumile emangweni wangakithi. Uyasida ke mfundzi kwekuthi njalo nangabe ubhala sihloko uqale uwavisisela amagama ngalinye uwahlatiyisise ukuthi asho kuthini. Ungamani nje utikhanzise ubhala ungaladi ligama ngalinye ukuthi lisho kuthini. Nasi ke sihloko sami mfundzi lesithi indvodza ledvumile emangweni wakithi. La kulesihloko sami mfundzi ngicabanga ukuthi utawunaka ukuthi ngikhethe kusebenzisa bofeleba. Lana akukadingeki ke ukuthi ubese uyasidwebela ngoba ukhethe kusigcamisa ngekuthi usibhale ngabofeleba. Lesihloko lesi indvodza leli gama lelithi indvodza ufuna wathi ukuthi masikhuluma ngemvodza suke sikhuluma ngani. Ngumuntu wesilisa losakhulile so sesigabeni sekuthi angaba naye umfati. Kushothi wena na usabhala lenzaba yakho awukabhekeki kwekuthi uchaze umfana wena ubhekeke ukuthi uchaze indvodza. Kwesibili mfundzi leli gama lelithi ledvumile. Nasikhuluma ukuthi lendvodza idvumile sikhuluma ukuthi iyatiwa kakhulu emangweni. Banengi bamfula bayatiko noma ungafika uyibute kuleyo mango labanengi bayayati lemvodza le. Bese masikhuluma ngemango sisuke sikhuluma ngalendzawo lapho khona usuke usakhamti khona sibita ukuthi ngumango. Lana ke mfundisi sokukhonile kuhlatiya kahle sihloko sakho onke emagama soyawadi. So ungakhona kwekuthi ke uvele ungene kiyo indzaba yakho ngoba sowuchaza imvo lo sowukhanyiselekile ngayo kwekuthi isho ukuthini. Asichubeke mfundisi sibuke isingeniso sethu kulesihloko lesengivele sengibekise ngaso. Masikhuluma ngesingeniso mfundisi sisuke sikhuluma ngenzima yekuqala endzabeni. Yinzima yekuqala endzabeni. Sikubita ukuthi singeniso ke lokho. Kumele sente loyifundzako imkhange afise noma ahalele kuyifunza ite iyophela lendzaba. Ngale singeniso wena uthonza nawo lofunza indzaba yakho. Ufuna kumenda wekuthi aze ayifunze ayofika egcineni. Usachaza lemvotha awichaze bunguyo bayo uze uyofika egcineni. Umkhanga kuphi ke umkhanga la esingenisweni sakho. Lokhu ke mfundisi ukwenda ukuthi uchaze noma uvete. Ungasho konke emagama lochaza ngawo kube ngilawo lanothile. Ngicela ukunake ke mfundisi lo ukuthi uyaveta. Awusho konke longahle ukusho ngaleyo ndvodza. But nje wena utawuveta lokhu lokuncane longakusho ngaleyo ndvodza ngemagama lanothile ngemagama elikhethelo lesinawo eSwatini lafaye ekhathi tisho netaga netinongo nativuma uyakhona ukuthi utisebenzise kahle mfundisi kulolu hlobo lwakho lenzaba. Naka ke mfundisi ukuthi usachaza ungabhala usebenzise isikhathi sanyalo noma lesengcile. Kulolu hlobo lolu lwenzaba awusebenzisi noma ngisiphi isikhathi. Usebenzisa isikhathi sanyalo noma isikhathi lesengcile. Ubona ngani ke ukuthi kumele ngisebenzise siphi isikhathi la? Ucondziswa ngiwo umbuto losuke ubutwe wona kuloyo mbuto noma kuleyo uhlolo lwakho. Sesibuka ke mfundisi kulesibonelo sami njengoba sengishito ukuthi namuhla sitawuchaza indvodza ledvumile emangweni wakithi. Asifunze kanye ke mfundisi singeniso sethu. Mutse ungamunwe usho ngematinyo lamhlophe lathe cwa. Ngumnumzane Bhilidi Ndlela ke loyo. Indvodza yemadvodza lengudvuma mlonyeni kubo bonke bemango wakithi embeka. Unjalo nje akabonakali noma satfukuthele. Ube solo awabeka kancane nje emagama ngelivi lelipholile. Ngiyethemba mfundzi ukuthi sisafunza kanye lapho ukhonile ukuthi uhambisane nami sisamchaza umnumzane Bhilidi ukuthi ungumumfulo kanjani. Na unganaka kahle sivetile asikasho konke ngaye. Futhi kuneligama lelinothile lesilisebenzisile lapha sasho ukuthi lendvodza lena ayifanani nalamanye emadvodza. Ingudvuma mlonyeni. Shothi ayiphumi noma ayiphuma emlonyeni kuyakhulunywa ngayo kakhulu kulendzawo. Lela kaphila kuyo umnumzane Bhilidi Ndlela. Lana ke mfundzi utawukhumbula ukuthi sisithe uyakhetha ukuthi ngusiphi isikhathi losisebenzisako. Lana nje umbhali ukhethe sikhathi sanyalo. Noma ke umbhali usebenzise sikhathi sanyalo kuchaza lendvodza le. Lesingeniso ke singamenda lofunza endzaba yakho ukuthi achubeke nekuyifunza ngoba leli gama lelisetshenzisiwe lelithi ingudvuma mlonyeni selivele liyaheha kulofunza lendzaba yakho angafuna kwathi ukuthi yini lena leyenda lendvodza bangawuvali umlomo bantfu ngayo. Leli gama lelithi dvuma mlonyeni ligama lelinothile lelichaza umuntu lowatiwako noma umuntu lodvumile ngetendo letitsite kulowo mango. Sisahamba kanye ke mfundzi sisaya engonini yesithathu lokungumtimba. Ngicabanga ukuthi nawe sowufisile kwathi kabanti kwekuthi le mnumzane Bhilidi udvume ngani vele yini lelengakalenda abantu bangawuvali umlomo ngaye. Yini lelengakalenda ukuthi bantu bamthanzisise bantu bamnake kangaka ngoba ngeke kumane kwenteke kwentiwa kwekuthi kunetimvu letitsite lakatendako. Asihambe kanye ke mfundzi wami siye engonini yethu yesithathu lokungumtimba phela wayo indzaba. Emtimbeni ke mfundzi siyaye sithi kulapho khona seyathuthuka indzaba yakho noma seyakhula indzaba yakho seyachaza kabanti kwekuthi lo mnumzane bowusho ngane kwekuthi udvumile bowusho ngane kwekuthi bantu abawuvali umlomo ngaye. Naka ke mfundzi ukuthi nase uchaza kabanti ngaye lo mnumzane mana sewuchaza kabanti ngaleso sihloko losuke wena ubhala ngaso ngetinzima nangemagama lanika sithombe lesikacako. Khumbula ukuthi sonke isikhathi tinzima takho akube ngibeleta lamana kahle diye lamana tinzima takho umusho wekucala kube nguwo losivetela umcondvo waloko lokuchazwa kulenzima. Khumbula ke mfundzi ukuthi inzima ngenzima imumatha umcondvo munye. Ungadikhanzi sowukhuluma ngetimvo letinengi enzimeni iyinye. Lokho ke sikubona ngani? Sikubona ngale sihloko musho. Lo musho wekuqala loba khona kuleyo nzima nguye losivetela ukuthi lo kulokuchazwa kulenzima noma lo muntu lochazwa kulenzima utawukhuluma ngani ngaye kuleyo nzima leyo. Nasi ke sibonelo sami mfundzi lengicela sisiphindze futhi sisifunze kanye sinawe lapho ekhaya. Lesibonelo la umusho sihloko musho sefu sekucala isithi indvangu uyayidla lo mnumzane. Sihloko musho sithi indvangu uyayidla lo mnumzane. Lapha ke mfundzi nalebe kafunza lendzaba yakho noma lotawufunza indzaba yakho so uvele uyabona ukuthi nyalo ngitake ngive ukuthi ugcoka kanjani lo mnumzane lona kusho uyidla kanjani lendvangu ngoba nasikhuluma ukuthi uyayidla indvangu sisho ukuthi ugcoka kahle uyatimisela nakwentekile wathi uyagcoka. Ingani njalo uyomkhanza agcoke isudu yakhe lolu hlobo lolungaphuma esitolo. Isho nangemgedla wayo losika impungane uyilahlele ngaphasi inanatelwa njalo lihembe lelimhlophe cwa kuhle kwesitfathwa netinzanjana letiba mibalabala lathanza kutiphulula lona wekunene uma akhuluma agcizelela lokuthide. Sisekhona la emtimbeni wethu mfundzi kunemagama lengifuna siwanake lokuthi uyawumkhanza agcoke eyisudu lenemgedla losika impungane sekuvele kusithombe emcomvo lesibonakalako sengiyayibona nje lesudu naye lengaphumi esitolo ledulile ngoba nasithi info ayiphumi esitolo ngesiswati sisuke sichaza ukuthi idulile ikhona ukuthi ithengwe ngilabo labaneti imali noma ngilabo labakhona ukuthi babe nemali leyenele. Nasikhuluma ukuthi ke imisudu inemgedla losika impungane kunesithombe lesakhekako engcondvweni yalofundzako so uvele uyayibona na isudu sikhuluma nangelihembe lakhe ukuthi limhlophe lithe cwa so uvele uyalibona ngemehlo engqondo sesikhuluma nangetinzanjana lesithi phecelezi bothai letinzanjana la ukuthi kuya ngekuthi ukhanuke kufaka yipi inzanjana kulelo langa lelo. Lana ke mfundzi sithi uyakhona ukuthi atiphulule njalo nakagcizelela lokuthide siyamchaza lo mnumzane simchaza lokugcoka nje kwakhe sikufole kuphi lokuthi sister uchaza ekugcoka kwakhe sikutfole ekucaleni lapho khona kunesihloko mosho lesithi uyayidla imvango so ke nakuthiwa uyayidla imvango sesivele siyabona ukuthi isudu nje nasi ngekwati kwethu ayimani nje igcoke noma ngangibani igcoka ngilabo bantu labo labasuke banemali lethide. Siqhubeke ke mfundzi lokunye lokungafuna ukuthi ukunake usesemtimbeni wenzaba yakho kumele ukuthi uchaze lendvodza noma uchaze lo muntu ngendlela umchaze ngendlela yetawenda ukuthi nalebe kangamadi noma kungathiwa seyaqhamuka umnumzane eBhilidi ambone ukuthi nangu lo mnumzane lokukhulunywa ngaye wale embeka ambone nje ngikokuthi wena wakhona ukuthi umchaze kahle manje ngene magama longa wasebenzisa usachubeka nekumchaza lamanye emaphuzu longa wabuka ngoba sisitelana indzaba yakho mfundzi seyiyakhula akukameli ukuthi imenza wonye seyiyakhula indzaba yakho nayikhula ke indzaba yakho mfundzi khumbula ukuthi sekunetimfo letinye letinenge lekumele utichaze kuze utofika kunali lizinga lelifunwa ngumhlolwa wakho. Similo salendvodza ungasichaza similo salendvodza ukuthi ungumuntu lonjani utiphethe njani emangweni bantu bathini ngaye ngiloko lokunye longakubuka ukuchaze usakhulisa indzaba yakho yini leyenda athume kulomango lusito nangabe lusito ulichaze ukuthi usitana ngani naye lemena abantu baze bambabate kangaka bantu bathi uthumile noma bamthumise kangaka yini lelemenda ukuthi athume konke lokho ungakuchaza emtimbeni wenzaba yakho lokunye kungaba kuveta ukuthi labanye vele bathini ngaye nasibuka lemisebenzi yakhe la kayendako kuloyo mango ngoba umuntu akamani athume uthuma ngoba kunetendo letithite la katendako noma indlela la kaphila ngayo nalabo bantu lapho wena ke mfundzi konke lokho utabe ukwenda kuphi emtimbeni wenzaba yakho and ukwenda uchaza ngetinzima kuye ngekuthi linani lemagama locelwe ukuthi uwabhale lingakanani. Asichubeke ke mfundzi wami sibuke ingoni yethu yekugcina lekusiphetho. Nasikhuluma ngesiphetho mfundzi sisuke sikhuluma ngana inzima lesithi yekugcina endzabeni. Kuloluhlobo lolwenzima ke mfundzi khumbula ukuthi phela indzaba yakho so uyayisonga awukabhekeki ukuthi sale ufaka lokusha sewunanatela naku loke wakuchaza leli gama lelithi sewuyayisonga lendzaba yakho kusho ukuthi konke nakulokuchazile ngale emtimbeni awusachubeki nekukuchaza ngala wena sekude nje lokusha lokufakako so unanatela naku loke wakuchaza ngale usachaza emtimbeni wenzaba yakho. Naka ke mfundzi ukuthi indzaba yakho solo inamathele esihlokweni kumcoka kakhulu ke mfundzi wami kwekuthi unake kwekuthi phela unganhlanhlathi utikhanze sewuchaza info longakacelwa ukuthi uyichaze lapha esihlokweni sakho sonke isikhathi chaza info locelwe ukuthi uyichaze kuleso sihloko sakho njengoba sichaza indvodza nje lana angabheki ukuthi bese songichazela indlu noma bese songichazela indzawo yangakini ukuthi inhle kanganani mina ngibheke ukuthi uchubeke uchaze lendvodza ngoba sowukhulumile ke lokunengi ngayo lapha emtimbeni lana ke esiphethweni soyananantela nje kwekuthi uvele lo muntu lo lokushido ngaye ungachubeka uthini noma ungangeta uthini but hayi lokusha mfundzi. Ngicela sisifunze ke phinze kanye nasiphetho sethu lesibonelo lenguphathele sona mfundzi la Kulesibonelo sami sister ufunza kanye kanye kufunzeka kanje. Luhlobo lwebantu lolufana nemnumzane eBhilidi nalunganza lingakha lelive labokhokho. Kwatise ukuthi umuntu uyayidla impilo yalabanye ngekuthi iphatha kwakhe. Baningi bamfu labangagucuka babadi labanye buphele nebudlwangudlwangu even. Luhlobo lwebamfu lolufana nemnumzane eBhilidi nalunganza lingakha lelive labokhokho. Lona lofunza lenzaba yakho la esiphethweni so uvela uyabona ukuthi uyathi kuhle kakhulu nakula kwendako nangabiyela lemtimbeni angafika athole ukuthi kunengi kakhulu lokwendiwa ngilobabe lekaze umbhali afise ukuthi luhlobo lolufana naye lwanze emangweni. Nikokuthi ke vele babantu bayakhona ukuthi bayidle impilo yalomunye umuntu ngekuthi iphatha kwabo. Uthi ke nakabhala lapha labanye kungasita nekuthi kuphele budlwangudlwangu even. Solo siyalibona mfunzi lelwimi luyavela lunothile lapha nasikhuluma nje ngebudlwangudlwangu even. Sisuke sikhuluma ngani ngekungadiphathi kahle noma sikhuluma ngetimfo letingasiko tisihle letingasiso sibonelo lesihle emphakathini noma kuloyo mango. Sichubeke mfunzi sesiyibukile ingoni yethu yekugcina sengephetha sifumbo sefu sanamuhla. Kunala kule ngifuna ukugcizelela mfunzi wami lengicela ukuthi ubokunaka njalo nje nakwendeka ubhala indzaba kungaba ngilechazako noma luphi ihlobo lenzaba. Kunake kusentshetiswa kwelulwimi. Kunake mfunzi kusentshetiswa kwelulwimi njengoba sichazile nje ukuthi lulwimi lolula kulenzaba lechazako ngunali lolufike linike tithombe emcondvo kunangu lofunza indzaba yakho. Sonke isikhathi na ubhala cilikela ukuthi ubhale emagama lanothile emagama latawenda ukuthi indzaba yakho ihlamuse ibe mnanzi ibe nesisindvo ilandzeleleke kahle ite ifike esiphethweni. Lokunye mfunzi kunaka timphawu tekubhala netibitelo. Naka timphawu tekubhala netibitelo. Nasichaza timphawu tekubhala mfunzi sisuke sikhuluma ngabongci, sikhuluma ngabokhefane, sikhuluma ngemibuti, sikhuluma nengembabati. Ngishito nje ecaleni kwalesifundvo ngathi ungathi sebenzisa tenda kuthi kulenzaba yakho. Konke lokho ufuna ukunaka ukuthi nangisebenzise naligama nali lelisenda ukuthi kufuna ukuthi umfake umbabadi. Nangabe umusho wami semuthe kufuna ukuthi ngiphumule ngifake ekhefana. Nangabe sengiyabuta kuleyo musho wami kufuna ukuthi ngiufake umbuti kahle kuleyo ndzaba yami. So ke ngicela ukuthi mfunzi utinake timphawu tekubhala netibitelo takho kwekuthi ubhala tipeling leti correct mfunzi wami. Kufunza indzaba yakho ke naso ucedzile kuyibhala utokhona kulungisa imaphutha kumcuka kakhulu kwekuthi so ibhalile indzaba yakho uphinze phela ubuyele uyifunze ucalele ekucaleni esingenisweni la sicale khona noma ucalele esihlokweni ubuka ukuthi usicamise kahle yini uye ngekuya ute esingenisweni uye ngekuya ute emtimbeni uze ufike esiphethweni solo utifunzela wena nangomsebenzi wakho ude utokhona kulungisa imaphutha lo uthuke wawenda endleleni usachubeka ubhala indzaba yakho. Kwekugcina ke mfunzi indzaba yakho ayihleleke kahle ngemicomvo lehlukene lechazwe kwacaca. Indzaba yakho ayihleleke kunetinyathelo letitsite lestilandzelako nasibhala indzaba ihlele kahle ke indzaba yakho. Ngiyawucela ke mfunzi kwekuthi lapho ekhaya ngoba bengucelele ukuthi ungibekele kwekubhalela embi kwakho ungibhalele nangu umbuto lengitawucela ukuthi ungibhalele yakho indzaba lechazako lapha ekhaya. Bhala indzaba ibe ngemagama lang 200 kuya 250 ngesihloko lesithi ingcayizivele yemalobolo. Masikhuluma nga 200 wemagama amagama la ngemakhulu lamabili kuye emakhulwini lamabili nemashumi lasihlanu ngesihloko lesithi ingcayizivele yemalobolo. Khumbula ke mfunzi ukuthi ungakaqali kubhala indzaba yakho khumbula ukuthi ligama ngalinye liqale ulihlathisise ukuthi lisho ukuthini. Hamba nje mfunzi ubuka ukuthi yini ingcayizivele. Imvona kuthiwa ingcayizivele kusuke kushiwo ini. Emalobolo wona yini? Kungikhani ukhona kwekuthi ubhale ungichazele kwekuthi ngumaphi lamalobolo kwentekani kulawo malobolo lo abita ukuthi wena aba ingcayizivele empilweni yakho. Ngiyabonga kakhulu mfundzi ngilokele benguphathele kona esifundweni sethu sanamuhla. Ngiyethemba ukuthi ukhonile ukuthi landzela kahle tonke tinyathelo takho tekubhala utawukhona kuyibhala indzaba yakho iphumelele ibe ngide kahle usale kahle.
Sibonge kakhulu uthishela Ncobile Gwebu ukuthi ube nathi namhla. Ngethemba ukuthi umfundzi welibanga lemfica usifokotele isifundo sethu sanamuhla. Lo landzelako ngumlingani wami Nokwazi Dlamini lo tabe anetfulela letifundo iRE ne-English. Siyabuya khona manje.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Hand washing is one of the best ways to keep from getting sick and staying healthy all the year long.
Better health, better life.
Better Health, Better Life is a program that speaks across all aspects of human health and wellness.
Uyeta utobuta ngaloko sawukhona ukuchazela. Then ke nase ngiyabeke soyafuna ke nehlela sesingakhona ke nokukusita lapho. But vele nje abstinence. Yes.
And these diseases are viruses. We all know that some viruses are not treated.
Yeah.
But you see lapha ema symptoms. So if we treat symptoms, it's not possible to treat the disease.
Youth View and insight to help the youth build a healthy lifestyle.
When it comes to the condom itself, it needs to be used correctly and consistently.
Services are available. But the secondary abstinence is possible.
Health Tips is there to maintain and balance your health status, and Street Talks to get ordinary people's opinion in the program. And with your host, Professor Shabangu, bringing you fresh topics every week. It's a new dawn, new season, and fresh topics to keep you healthy because health is wealth.
Better health is your gateway to better life.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kwanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesiyimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngiyakubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Pay your TV license for being in possession of devices such as television sets, DVDs, VCRs, monitors, and more. You are reminded that payments of TV licenses is due on or before the 31st of December every year. 180 Malangeni per year for individual or business viewership, 300 Malangeni for television trading license, and 50 Malangeni for other devices. You can pay for your TV license through MTN Mobile Money, Eswatini Mobile Imali, NetBank, and Eswatini Telecom. Visit us at the television license offices at the Madlenya House, Babane, or call this number 3434 1234. Pay yours every year.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known.
A very warm welcome back to our viewers and a very good afternoon if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini and you are tuned in to Eswatini TV and this is Home Study. Right now we are doing Form 5 Religious Education and already joining me in the studio is the Form 5 Religious Education teacher, Mbumelelo Dlamini. Also joining me in the studio is our sign language interpreter, Zanele Mota. A very good afternoon, Mbumelelo. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Nogwazi?
I'm very good, thank you very much. I understand that the first part of your lesson today is a continuation from last week, and the second part is today's topic, which is the appointment of the 7.
You are very correct.
All right, thank you very much. Without wasting any time, Form 5s, I hope that you are ready for your lesson. And just a reminder before we start our lesson that we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions that are relevant to this subject that we are doing right now, please feel free to ask actually on our WhatsApp number. Mbumelelo, I'll let you start your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nogwazi. Good afternoon once again, dear Form 5s. As Nogwazi has alluded, the very first part of our lesson today will be a continuation of last week's lesson. So now, please make sure that you have your Bibles with you, RSV obviously, and you have your pens and your notebooks so that you can take notes. So now, without wasting time, last week with Ms. Vilagati, you discussed rearrest of the apostles. And she also said that they were brought before the Sanhedrin. And once they were before the Sanhedrin, they were asked as to why they were still teaching in the name of Jesus when it was clearly stated to them that they should not be teaching in that name. And the apostles responded boldly and said, "We will only listen to God and not to men." That infuriated the Sanhedrin and they wanted to kill the apostles. So now what happened was there was a very, very wise man in the Sanhedrin, among the Sanhedrin, and his name was Gamaliel. So we will be looking at Gamaliel, and please open your Bibles, chapter 5, Acts, remember, Acts chapter 5 from verses 33 up to 42. So now, who was Gamaliel? Now, Gamaliel was a Pharisee and a member of the Sanhedrin. Now, this Gamaliel was well respected by all Jews, both the Sanhedrin and the Jews in general. Why then did they respect Gamaliel? It was because of his knowledge of the Jewish laws. And it is believed, some scholars actually say that he wrote some of the Jewish laws. And again, Gamaliel had a very, very good character. So that is why the Jewish people respected him. And then what happened? I said that when they were before the Sanhedrin, the apostles actually angered the Sanhedrin by their response. So now, Gamaliel saw that his colleagues now were very, very angry and they wanted to kill, yet they were not supposed to kill. Remember, they were the law itself. So if you are the law, you cannot then kill someone. So now, what Gamaliel did was, he asked that the apostles be taken out and he wanted to address the Sanhedrin in private. So now the apostles were taken outside and Gamaliel then said to his colleagues, he cautioned them and he told them that, please be careful how you deal with the apostles. And what he did was he reminded them of 2 prominent men that appeared to be famous in Israel during or at that time. So these 2 famous men were Theudas and Judas the Galilean. So now, Theudas had 400 followers. But when he was killed, these 400 followers just scatter, or they were scattered. And then again, Judas the Galilean, arose, and he too had a great following, but he was killed as well. And what happened was his group was scattered as well. So now, what Gamaliel said was, leave the apostles alone. Leave them alone. If what they are doing is of God, you may find yourself working against God. Yet, if it is not from God, don't worry. It will just fizzle out. It will die a natural death, just like these two groups of Theudas and Judas the Galilean. So now, what happened was, they listened to Gamaliel's advice or speech, and they brought back the apostles. And what they did was they just beat them, and they threatened them once again and told them never to teach in the name of Jesus, and they let them go. The apostles were very, very happy that they had suffered for the name of Jesus. But that did not stop them. They continued preaching. So now let us look at the character of Gamaliel. What kind of a man was Gamaliel? So now, Gamaliel was God-fearing. He was full of wisdom. He was influential, dignified or respectable, and he was also eloquent. So now, that's his character. Due to time factor, now we are only going to discuss 2 points. I'm sure you now know how to beef up the bones that I give you. I have just given you points, and you need to go back and read chapter 5, verses 33 to 42, and then you'll be able to add flesh to the bones that I've just given you. But I will only discuss with you 2 points: why we say he was God-fearing, and why we also say he was an eloquent speaker. Now, we say that Gamaliel was God-fearing because he was able to actually call to order the Sanhedrin. He was able to tell them that they should be careful as to how they deal with the apostles, because they may find themselves working against God. Now, anyone who utters those words is someone who is God-fearing. You can never say people should be careful because they may find themselves working against God. So now, that is why we say Gamaliel was actually God-fearing. Now, why do we say he was an eloquent speaker? So now, from his speech, I am sure that as you read verses 33 to verses 42, you will be able to see that the structure of his speech is commendable. And he actually does what? He actually sources ideas that the Sanhedrin knew very well. He reminded them about 2 people that they knew, 2 people that had a great following. So now that tells us that this man was an eloquent speaker, and he was able to convince a group of men, 70 plus 1 men. He was able to convince them and tell them that no, be careful. Now that takes someone who is eloquent. So now that's our characterization. Now, lessons learned from Gamaliel's speech. 1, we learn that good reputation earns one respect. In this case, when we are talking about reputation, we are talking about good character. If you have a good character, people tend to respect you, just like Gamaliel. In our previous slide, we were talking about the character of Gamaliel. We said that he was God-fearing, he was a wise man, he was an eloquent speaker. So now, that earned him respect. not only from the Sanhedrin, but also from the Jewish nation as a whole. So now that is a very, very good lesson. Secondly, we also learn that it is important to be God-fearing. Why do we say it is important to be God-fearing? It is because if you are not God-fearing, you may find yourself working against God. That is why Gamaliel advised the Sanhedrin that no, be careful, don't do this. Imagine a Sanhedrin, the people that were law abiders, the people that actually wrote the law. Imagine if their anger drove them to kill someone. Now, being a God-fearer, very important. Now, next, put one's eloquence into good use. We see that Gamaliel was an eloquent speaker. He was good with words. He could probably convince me that today I am not wearing a yellow top, I'm wearing a white top, because he was good with words. So now, a lesson is put that into good use, because Gamaliel could have easily told the Sanhedrin to actually kill the apostles. But what he did was he actually defended the apostles. So now that was putting his skill or his eloquence into good use. And then our last point is standing in God's way is actually futile. So now why do we say standing in God's way is futile or is useless? Now look at the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was very, very angry when the apostles responded by saying they would always listen to God and not to men. But what God did was, in their anger, he then resurrected one of them, a Pharisee, Gamaliel. Gamaliel actually defended now the apostles. That is why at the end of the day, they were not killed, but they were merely beaten and threatened, and then they let them go. So now it is useless to stand in God's way, because God always finds a way to continue with whatever ministry he wants. So it's today's lesson, Nogwazi. It is the appointment of deacons. So my dear Form 5, now we are in chapter 6. The rationale for today's lesson, it is for you, my dear Form 5, to understand the administrative structure of the church. Now, any organization needs a structure. So now, remember that the church began with only 120 believers. But where we are in chapter 6 now. Now there are about 5,000 to 6,000 believers. So now there had to be a structure, an administrative structure. Chores had to be shared. And then today's word that you are supposed to be careful of is the word deacon. This word is taken from the Greek language, diakonos, which means service, which means that deacons are people that actually serve. So let us look at our objectives for today's lesson. You need to give an account of the events leading to the appointment of deacons. Outline the qualities of deacons. Explain the significance of the appointment of deacons. And finally, explain lessons drawn from the appointment of deacons. So now, those are our objectives. So now, let us look at some of the events that actually led to the appointment of deacons. Why were deacons appointed? Now, let us look at verses 1 to verse 2. Remember, your Bibles are kept in chapter 6, opened in chapter 6. So just look at verses 1 and verses 2. You will then see that it was because the church was increasing in number, and then there was a complaint from the Hellenistic Jews Now, when we are talking about Hellenistic Jews, we are talking about Greek-speaking Jews. And then when we are talking about Hebraic Jews, we are talking about Aramaic-speaking Jews. So now, these Hellenistic Jews complained that their widows were neglected during the apportionment of food parcels. So they felt that the Hebraic ones had first preference. Now, the apostles, on the other hand, also felt that they did not need to the apostles felt the need to focus on preaching the word of God and prayer and not to serve tables. So these are the reasons why the deacons had to be appointed. So now, what happened after the complaint? Now, a proposal was made by the apostles. The apostles, remember, they said that, okay, we understand that you are complaining that your widows are neglected. And we also feel like it is not our responsibilities to serve tables. Ours is just to pray and to preach the word of God. So they brought a proposal. They said that the church should choose 7 men. And they said that these men that the church must choose must be people of good repute, which means that they had to be honest. Why should these people be honest? It was because they would be dealing with money and food. Imagine if money and food parcels were given to someone who was not honest, then there'd be a problem. And then again, the people that they were supposed to choose were supposed to be full of the Holy Spirit. Why is that? Because all tasks are spiritual. No matter how small a task is, but it is spiritual. So now, during the apportionment of money or food, the distribution of food and apportionment of money, these people had to be led by the Holy Spirit. And again, they had to be wise. Why did they have to be wise? So that they would be able to tell if family A needs more meal and family B needs more meat. It would be useless to give family A meat when they already have meat. And again, you cannot, as a deacon, give equal portions to people that are of different status. You need to give more to the one that needs more and give less to the one that needs less. And then the church then chose the 7 deacons. It was not the apostles that actually chose the 7 deacons. This tells us that now the early church was a democratic church. The apostles did not impose people on the church that they wanted, but they allowed the church to actually nominate people that they thought they would work well with. And then the apostles later laid hands on the 7 men that were chosen to give them authority to do their work. So now that is our appointment of deacons. So now who are these 7 men that were chosen? So this is the list of the 7 men that were chosen. We have Stephen, we have Philip, Prochorus, we have Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, Nicholas. Now, Nicholas was from Antioch, which actually tells us now that he was a Gentile. Now, as you can see from this list actually shows us what? It shows us universalism. They embraced all nations and all races. They did not only choose Gentiles, but also non-Gentile. They did not only choose Jews, but also non-Jews were chosen, like Nicholas, who was from Antioch. So now, the number 7, my dear Form 5, just a reminder, it is symbolic. It symbolizes perfect completion. You will remember that we spoke about the number 12, that it as well represents completion. The number 3, we said it represents the Trinity. So now, again, the appointment of deacons. Some scholars believe that it became the basis of forming committees. Now, I am sure that in your school, there are many organizations. Maybe there's a Green Enviro organization or Girls Empowerment Clubs, and those organizations and clubs have what? Committees. And in those committees, there are how many people? 7 people. So most scholars believe that the 7 came or was influenced by these deacons, the appointment of deacons. And then again, why an odd number? Why the 7? It was so that a consensus would be reached earlier, so that there'd always be a winner and a loser. 4 against 3. 3 against 4. Because if the number was even, probably, for example, if they decided that a committee was supposed to have 6 members, there'd always be 3-3. And then there'll be problems there. So now the odd number is very, very helpful. So now, this is a source. Remember, this is a source. So in our source, if you were to study this source, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are our 7 deacons. And then these that are laying hands on them, these are our apostles. And these at the back, this is what? This is the church. So that's our source. Always remember to study your sources. Now, what lessons can be drawn from the appointment of deacons? It is important to address problems peacefully and as they arise. Address them peacefully and as they arise. Why is that important? It is important because the moment you procrastinate something, then there'll be trouble. Yet, if you tackle a problem there and there at that time, then there would be peace. So now, we see that in the appointment of deacons, when the Hellenistic Jews complained about their widows being neglected, the apostles did not say, we are yet to think about what we are going to do, we will sort. No, they said, choose men who will see to it that even the Hellenistic Jews are well catered for. That was our first lesson. Our second lesson, do not neglect your main objective whenever challenges arise. Now, in this instance, the apostles could have easily derailed from being preachers and prayers and being prayerful, because now there was what? There was this problem from the Hellenistic Jews. So what the apostles did was they maintained and they said clearly, ours is to pray and to preach. You choose 7 men that are going to do what? To serve tables. So do not, never ever leave your main objective just because there is a problem. Our next lesson is delegate some duties to trustworthy people. Delegate. Always give other people responsibilities so that they too can grow. Now we see in this instance that the apostles actually delegated the duty of serving tables to other people. They did not say, hi, it's okay, we will be able to serve tables, we will be able to preach, we will be able to pray for people as well. No. They delegated the duties, and actually delegating a duty to someone makes that individual to grow as well. It shows that you actually trust the ability and the capability of that individual. And then our last lesson is that maturity entails the ability to embrace diversity amicably. So that's our lesson. Now, the importance or the significance of the appointment. It promoted peace in the church. It enhanced the spread of the gospel. It brought honor to the church. And then the issue of universalism, we see that Nicholas was a Gentile. And then the church as well grew because even priests started joining. You will find this in verses 7. Remember, these are just what? These are just points. Make sure that you read chapter 6 and then you'll be able to beef up your points. Now, let us look at the ministry now of Stephen. Stephen was one of the 7 deacons. Remember that, my dear, from 5. Now, Stephen did not only serve tables, but he did great wonders and signs, which means that he was performing miracles as well, and he also preached. Now, this led to others being jealous of him. So now, opposition from the synagogue of the freedmen arose. Now, when we are talking about opposition from the synagogue of the freedmen, we are talking about these were the Jews that were once slaves in other countries like Rome, and then they were then released and they went back to their country. So now these men were jealous of Stephen. So but then they realized that they could not withstand the wisdom and the power with which Stephen was working. So what they did was they secretly instigated men to lie. These are the lies that they said. They said that he blasphemed against Moses and God. He threatened Jesus will destroy the temple and that Jesus will change the laws of Moses. So now he was taken, he was seized and brought before the Sanhedrin. And as they were accusing him of all these things, his face changed to that of an angel. So now let us look at characterization, the character of Stephen's opponents and the character of Stephen. So let us look at Stephen's opponents. Stephen's opponents, they were jealous. You will find that in chapter 6, verses 10. They were also evil because they wanted him to be arrested for something that he did not actually do. And they were very, very manipulative. Now, you will find that in verses 11. Let us look at Stephen now. Stephen was a hard worker. Why do we say he was a hard worker? Remember, not only did he serve tables, but he went beyond that. He also preached and did wonders. And he was also wise. You will find that in verses 10, my dear, from 5. And everything that he did, he was led by the Holy Spirit. And then our assessment, before I go. Our assessment says, give an account of the appointment of deacons for only 6 marks. So now, just a model answer. This is not the answer. I am giving you just points, my dear, from 5. Remember, our very first point is there was a complaint from the Hellenistic Jews. Secondly, talk about the apostles' response and the qualities of deacons, the list of the deacons, and the fact that the apostles laid hands on them afterwards. Nokwazi, I think I am done for today.
Thank you very much, Bumelelo. We hope to see you again for another religious education lesson. Thank you for that. Form 5s, please do not go anywhere. I will be right back with the English language teacher for Form 5, Bonisiwe Ndwandwe. We'll be right back after this.
A tragedy that reveals his purpose. In a world at odds with his way of life. They say there is no place like home. But for Mandla Manyatsi, home is where his worst nightmare comes to life. The inheritance that divides brothers and threatens a legacy. The family secret that seeks to end a marriage.
Just tell me the truth, man. As your wife, I deserve that at least.
This season, the forsaken son of a chief returns home on a personal quest that challenges him to confront old family secrets and discover uncomfortable truths about where his destiny truly lies. Ekaya, coming to your screens this June, only on Eswatini TV.
Labanengi labangenwa ligciwane lecorona bavame kuba netimpawu letingasito letimatima njengebuhlungu bemphimbo, kuphathwa inhloko, kushisa nekubanza, kukhwehlela lokomile, kuphefumula kalukhuni kanye nekudzinwa. Kepha kulabanye kuba matima njengoba leli gciwane lihlasela emaphaphu. Ngesikhathi umtimba ulwa nalo leli gciwane wakheka emanti lagcola emaphashini. Emaphaphu-ke angagcola emanti akuphefumuleki. Lokhu-ke kubanga tingcinamba letinengi. Kuthi khweshisa kulabanye kuyasita ekunciphiseni kwanza kwesifo i-COVID-19. Hlala ekhaya ungahambi. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Hand washing is one of the best ways to keep from getting sick and staying healthy all the year long.
Better health, better life.
Better Health, Better Life is a program that speaks across all aspects of human health and wellness.
Uyeta utobuta ngaloko sawukhona ukuchazela then ke nase ngiyabe ke soyafuna ke nehlela sesingakhona ke nokukusita lapho but vele nje abstinence yes.
And these diseases are viruses. We all know that some viruses are not treated.
Yeah.
But you see, lapha ema symptoms. So if we treat symptoms, it's not possible to treat the disease.
Youth View and insight to help the youth build a healthy lifestyle.
When it comes to the condom itself, it needs to be used correctly and consistently.
Services are available. But the secondary abstinence is possible.
Health Tips is there to maintain and balance your health status, and Street Talks to get ordinary people's opinion in the program. And with your host, Professor Shabangu, bringing you fresh topics every week. It's a new dawn, new season, and fresh topics to keep you healthy because health is wealth.
Better health is your gateway to better life.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kwanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesiyimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngekubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Welcome back to our viewers, and a very good afternoon if you have just joined us. This is Home Study on Eswatini TV. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini, and right now we are doing Form 5 English language. If you have just joined us, I do not know where you have been because this is the last lesson for Form 5s today. Joining me already in the studio is Bonisiwe Ndwandwe, who is going to be taking us through the Form 5 English language lesson. Also joining us in the studio are our sign language interpreters, Nombumelelo Hadebe and Linda Mamba. Bonisiwe, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm okay, Nogwazi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you back.
Yeah, it's good to be here as well.
I understand today we are continuing with listening comprehension from last week.
Yes, my dear.
What are you expecting your Form 5 learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Okay, I still expect them to note how to listen well as to note impediments to listening and how to overcome them as well.
All right, okay, Form 5s, I hope that you are ready. And just to remind you again, Form 5s, we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to text us whatever questions you might have for this English language lesson. Bonisiwe, I'll let you begin your lesson.
Okay, thank you so much, Nogwazi, and welcome back again, my dear viewer or learner at home. So today, as I've already highlighted, that we are still continuing on our tips on how to listen well. Maybe if we may do a bit of some recap. The last time that we were together, we talked about the importance of listening consciously. That is, listening with not only your ears, but with your mind as well, which means you need to reason things. So it is not only about the words that you hear or you listen to, but you must go beyond that and make sense of the words that you hear. And we also reminded ourselves that you need to know what to listen for when you are given such a task. So that means you listen for specific information. So how do you listen to specific information? This comes around when you have read the questions prior to the listening exercise. So please ensure that you give yourself time to read the questions before you can actually listen to the listening clip. Okay, and again, we also touched on the importance of the pre-test reading session, which I will also emphasize on today, that it is very important because it allows you to anticipate what you are going to be listening to. And maybe lastly, we also touched on the issue of question analysis, which we said is very important. And especially on exercise 1, we had said that it goes beyond the analyzing of the question, but you also need to identify or spot where the distractor is going to come from, my dear learner. Okay, so now we are taking it from there. Today we dealt with question analysis and identifying where the distractors are going to come from in our previous lesson. So I bet we are okay with that one. So now we are continuing with our do's and don'ts in the listening paper. So first on my list here is failure to contextualize content. What do we mean by that? This is basically failure to associate your answer, my dear learner, with the subject content in the given context. So, which is why I will emphasize again on the pre-test reading session, because that is where you try to familiarize yourself with the context as you go through the question. Okay, because we had said that it allows you room even to anticipate what is going to happen or what you are going to be listening to. Let us look at this example to clarify what we are talking about here. Okay, there is this question I picked from a previous exam paper. It says, how long, remember we do question analysis, how long did it take the city of Xanadu to be built? how long, as we have seen that I have underlined it, it means that it is important in our responding of the question. So how long here means that we are basically looking at duration. That is the amount of time it took for this city to be built. So now you'll find that maybe in some of our responses, we would give, okay, the expected response here, I would say it was 3 decades. But you find that in our response to the question, you find that somebody has said 3 decades, as in from rot, or 3 tickets. So what I want to emphasize here is that you try and associate your answer with the subject content in the given context. Remember, we said earlier on that you not only listen with your ears, but you also listen with your mind, which means you need to make sense of what you are hearing as well as what you are writing. And remember, once again, we have highlighted that this listening clip is always repeated. So I would advise you that in the first attempt in responding to the questions, please ensure that you try and make sense even in the responses that you are given. So if maybe by chance you happen to hear tickets instead of decades for duration, or maybe decades instead of decades, then try to listen even more carefully to the next time around the listening clip is brought to you. And definitely I can assure you, my dear learner, that you are going to be able to pick the correct response for that particular question. Maybe same applies when you are given an exercise on a listening clip on exercise. You find that you are expected to give this response, usually in the gap filling exercise, the fitness level. Then you find somebody having written thickness level. Try to make sense. Exercise, gym, and thickness level. Does it really make sense? It doesn't. So in the second listening clip, you try and find the correct response to that particular answer. So instead of fitness level, then of course you would find yourself giving the correct response. So that is associating your answer with in the given context. Try to make sure that those two things, they agree. Okay, then one other thing, my dear learner, it is the issue of spelling. Okay, that rests entirely on you, my dear learner. So with this one, I would advise that you read much and you write much. Give yourself to reading and to writing so that you may be able to overcome this problem of giving or writing wrong spellings. There is no other way than that. So I usually advise learners that even though you might not find the time or you might not have all the work marked, but the fact that you have read something and you have written something counts for something at the end of the day. So please give yourself more to reading and to writing to ensure that you eliminate such silly problems as spelling errors. Okay, then on that note, again, my dear learner, I want us to note the issue of homophones, which usually fail us in our responses. What are homophones? Maybe somebody may be asking himself or herself. Homophones are these words that sounds similar, but of course have different meanings, and they are of course spelled differently. But when you listen to them, they sound exactly the same or almost the same. Let us take a look at this one or two examples. Mary is Mary. Right. Mary is Mary now that she is getting married. So with this one, my dear learner, it takes a focused listener, a good listener, to mark the difference between these two Marys. So you need to identify which Mary means what in this instance. So in this instance, the first Mary, of course, is a proper noun, as you can see on your screen there. It is a proper noun, and it obviously refers to a name of a person. And the second Mary, of course, means that somebody is happy or is excited about a particular thing. In this instance, she is happy or merry that she is getting married. So if you are only listening at words, you wouldn't know which Mary is which. Is it the Mary for the name of the person, or the Mary meaning that somebody is happy or excited? So now you need to listen consciously with not only your mind. Let us look at this one last example of homophones, which you should note as well, because they might fail you if you do not take note of them. Okay? She sighed sadly at the sight of the sorry sight of the state of the building site. You are going to be given something like this in exercise 2 and 3, which is the gap filling exercise, where you are going to find words that sound the same, and at times you are confused where to place those words. But now again, it takes a good listener and an attentive listener to mark the difference. For example, with this one, the side, it sounds the same as a site, as well as it sounds the same as this last site. But of course, they mean different things, as I'm sure you might be well aware as you are watching now, my dear Lena. This side, the first one, of course, means or refers to when somebody takes a long, deep breath, which can be heard to show that they are either disappointed, they are sad, or they are tired. Whereas this side here, the second side, of course, has to do with view or vision. That is probably the distance one is able to see from a particular position or a point. Then, of course, the last site, which sounds the same with the rest of the other sites, but is different because this last one means a place. It means a place where a building, a town, or a house was, is, or will be located. We usually hear people talking about visiting a building site. So it is that site where a building is meant to be located or situated. Maybe a house will be mounted there. So we refer to that as the building site. So these sites sound the same, of course, but they mean totally different things, as I have already highlighted, my dear learner. And again, it takes somebody with an attentive ear, somebody who has shut down all the distractions, to be able to tell where to place the first side, where to place the second side, and as well as the last side. Those are homophones. They usually are tricky for us, but if we take note of them, then we are never going to get wrong. Then the next one is that rules of the language apply fully even in this paper. So, my dear learner, you are advised to adhere to punctuation, which will include a full stop. Know where to place a full stop, because some of us are in the habit of just placing a full stop every time that they write. Be it a phrase, they just place a full stop when they are done. Even if the response is a one-word answer, they always are in the habit of placing a dot or a full stop. That is not acceptable, my dear learner. Know when to use this. It is also key in this paper, as well as the capital letter. We know that we use capital letters, my dear learner, for proper nouns or maybe for titles of book. Otherwise, if it is not that, avoid using the capital letter because it might let you down. Same applies with the comma. This one is used to separate things or to show that you are still continuing with your list. So if you are not listing anything, then avoid using the comma. We also talk about tenses. Make sure that you use the correct tense. And this one is always guided by the question that you are reading or the scenario that you are given, as well as proper nouns. This one is usually a challenge for some of us. They just use especially the she and the he interchangeably as if there is no difference there, yet there is a difference. We know that we use a she for the female species as well as the he for the male species. If I may make an example, the name Mandlenkosi, we know that in our Siswati context, Mandlenkosi is always associated with the males. So you cannot, therefore, my dear Lena, use she for Mandlenkosi because he is always associated with the males. I know in this aspect that there are some names which are unisex, but of course there is going to be something from the text that will signal to you that this is a male or a female. Otherwise, in the obvious cases, please let us not use the she and the he interchangeably like that. Then moving on, my dear learner, at times you may be required to change the simple tense, for example, to a continuous tense, especially in the gap filling exercise. They usually bring that one on us as well. In the listening clip, you find that it is presented in simple present tense. Okay, yet when you go to the exercise, in the gap filling exercise, you find that the way it is structured, it requires that you present it in continuous tense.
Thank you for that. I don't know if you mind if we could just take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back after just a minute or so.
Not a problem.
Viewers, we'll be right back after this.
Labanengi labangenwa ligciwane lecorona bavame kuba netimpawu letingasito letimatima njengebuhlungu bemphimbo, kuphathwa inhloko, kushisa nekubanza, kukhwehlela lokomile, kuphefumula kalukhuni kanye nekudzinwa. Kepha kulabanye kuba matima njengoba leli gciwane lihlasela emaphaphu. Ngesikhathi umtimba ulwa nalo leli gciwane, wakheka emanti lagcola emaphashini. Emaphaphu-ke angagcola emanti akuphefumuleki. Lokhu-ke kubanga tingcinamba letinengi. Kuthi kweshisa kulabanye kuyasita ekunciphiseni kwanza kwesifo i-COVID-19. Hlala ekhaya ungahambi. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Welcome back to our viewers. You are still tuned in to Eswatini TV and this is Home Study. At this moment, we're continuing with our Form 5 English language class with Mrs. Bonisiwe Ndwandwe. Bonisiwe, without wasting time, I'll let you continue with your lesson.
Okay, thank you so much, Nogwazi. Welcome back, my viewer at home. Before the break, my dear learner, we're emphasizing that at times you might be required to change the simple present tense, for example, to the continuous tense. So you must also be on the lookout for this one, which will bring me back again to laying an emphasis on the pre-test reading session, because as you go through that exercise, all those aspects, it can tell you, you can even pick the tense that you are expected to use in that particular exercise. So please, my dear learner, do go over that every now and then. As long as you have the time to do so, please ensure that you do that. Okay, then moving on, we are saying at times you may be asked to change direct speech to indirect speech. Okay, so now, my dear learner, you need to be able to do that as well. You may find that in the listening clip, there are two people that are engaging in a conversation, but then when they ask you a question, then you need to change that direct speech to indirect speech, or rather reported speech. So you must also be in the position to do that as well, my dear learner. And one other reminder here, this is basically a reminder which is very important. Try to respond to all the questions. There shouldn't be a question that is left blank or unanswered, my dear learner. That is very important, because you might never be too sure if you are going to get the correct answer or response for that one. Then moving on, we meet again the issue of symbols and the unit of measurement. We talked about that in detail when we're discussing reading and writing, but it pops up again here. It is very important, my dear learner, to always include the unit of measurement as well as the issue of symbols. If, for example, you are asked in kgs, you need to include that. If it is 15 kg, you need to include the kg as well. If it is kilometers, you need to include that as well. If it is $10, just do that. If they ask you, how much does a child's ticket cost? You cannot just write the 10 and leave it at that, because 10 can be just about anything, my dear learner. And $10 is different from 10 emalangeni, as well as it is different from 10 euros. So always include the unit of measurements to show that you are sure of what you are doing. Otherwise, you might forfeit that mark if you simply write the figure and not include the unit of measurement as well as the symbol. Then again, my dear learner, if the question is in plural, for example, what qualifications are needed for a BCom? If I may make an example, you need to give more than one of those qualifications. Why? Because of that S there. It says what? Qualifications, not qualification. So you need to give more than one of that qualification. And if it is not stated, if the number is not stated exactly, you need to give all the qualifications you have been given in the listening text. And usually you find that it is about 2 or 3. So I'm sure you might be able to recall that. Because if you only give one, I'm afraid you are not going to be awarded that mark for that particular question or your response. Then moving on, my dear learner, with the gap filling exercise, again, we emphasize that you use the skill or technique of anticipation. We did talk about that in our last lesson. Maybe for a brief recap, we said that you need to anticipate or you need to expect. During the pre-test reading session, when you are going through the question or the information on the gap filling exercise, you anticipate what you are going to be listening about. We made an example of hospitals, that if the interview is going to be about hospitals, of course you can expect or anticipate hearing about doctors, about nurses, about medication, about diagnosis, about injuries, casualties, etc. Same applies maybe with this pandemic COVID-19. If you are going to be given a listening clip on that, of course, you can expect that you are going to hear words like fumigation, words like social distancing, words like quarantine, words like face mask, etc. You can even anticipate hearing about symptomatic or asymptomatic patients. That is why it is important to anticipate. That is a skill which you develop with time, my dear learner, and with much practice. Then moving on, again, this emphasis that you fill in all the aspects of the items that have been presented to you. Never leave a gap uncompleted. Fill all the aspects presented to you. Okay, then again, still in the gap filling, we are saying if the gaps follow each other suit, it is most likely, my dear learner, that the response would come in the same sentence. Okay, the gaps are following each other suit, maybe like this. There is no word in between here, so it means they follow each other closely. There is nothing that is disturbing it at the end. It means that the response is likely to come in the same sentence there. So it means you don't need to work that hard to find the response in that gap filling exercise. And same applies when maybe there is an end. Okay, there is an end. Okay, and then there is a gap again. Even in such instances, you find that the responses are likely to come in the same sentence. So you must be on the lookout of that one as well. Then again, in the gap filling exercise, we are saying, let us mind the subheadings or introductory phrases in between parts of the exercises. Why? Because they give us a hint or an idea of what we are to expect as we are listening to the listening clip, my dear learner. And moving on, especially for exercise 4 and 5, my dear learner, this one is a bit more complex, but it is still accessible if we are going to apply all these tips that we have been highlighting even from last week. Okay, this one is not that much different from the other, especially exercise 1 that we have been focusing on. So I will simply lay an emphasis on some of the issues that I feel you should take note of, especially for exercise 4 and 5. First on the list is don't rephrase the question. Actually, there is no room for that. This is when you use part of the question in your response, and that is not acceptable. In fact, there is no room for that in that paper, because if you will remember very well, the listening and the writing in this exercise rather go concurrently or simultaneously. So you will find that obviously there is no time for you to rephrase the question. So, my dear learner, simply pick the correct response and write the response. Don't rephrase the question. And then we are saying, when the voice says, or when the speaker says, look at the questions for exercise 4, just do that. You are always given a few minutes or maybe seconds to look over or to go through the questions. When they assign you to do that, please do that. Remember, we said you listen for specific information. There is no way you can make it in this paper if you don't know what it is that you are listening for, my dear learner. So look at the question. Every time you are assigned to do that, just look at the questions and avoid the other distractions that might shift your focus from the task at hand. Then again, we are saying take note of the mark allocation. So with this one, usually for exercise 4 and 5, the allocation is between 1 and 2 marks. Okay, so now I want to emphasize on the question which will be allocated the 2 marks, because it means with that one your response needs to be much detailed. compared to the one that is going to be allocated 1 mark. So for such a question, then you are not expected to give a one-word response or answer for 2 marks. So note that one. If it is 2 marks, then it means it has to be detailed. It should be longer compared to the one that would be allocated 1 mark. And we meet again this question of comparing and contrasting, where we have said with this one, you are basically required to mark the difference or the similarities between 2 entities. So now, if you are given such a question, my dear learner, we have been emphasizing even from the reading and writing exercise that you need to use conjunctions like yet, there are actually so many of them, whereas, but, etc. to mark the difference or the similarity in that question, depending what you would have been asked. But ensure that as you illustrate that A is different from B in this way, you must use these conjunctions. A is like this, whereas B is like that. A is like that, yet B is different because of this. You must always use those conjunctions to mark the differences or similarities clearly, my dear learner. Then again, moving on, you are advised to mind your use of and, the comma, as well as O. Okay, I have already highlighted on the comma, so I will stick with the and O. Say maybe, for example, you are asked to give 2 advantages of maybe keeping a dog. Then you give advantage number 1, it serves as security and it acts as a friend. Those are 2 advantages. You have joined them with the and that is correct. But there are some probably who would use the O. They give the response as number 1, it acts as security or act as a friend. Then that is not acceptable, my dear learner, because if you use O, it means you are giving me an option. I should either take A or take B, which means now you have not given me 2 advantages, but you have asked me to choose whether I take advantage number A or advantage number B. So let us not use and O again interchangeably as if they have the same effect, my dear learner. Ensure that it is and if you are joining 2 things, because if you are going to write O, then I'm afraid it is only one that is going to be picked and not the other. Then again, my dear learner, moving on, there is also the phrase issue, okay, which you are advised to insert in inverted commas. At times they are going to ask you to pick a phrase from the listening text that is evidence of something, okay? Then when you pick that phrase, you must then insert it in inverted commas or in quotation marks, because that is not a complete sentence and it shows that it is a phrase that you have just picked, my dear learner. And one other thing that I also want us to note here, my dear learner, it is the issue of examples. At times you are asked, maybe if I can go back to the example that I was giving earlier on, that you are asked to give maybe 3 advantages of keeping a dog. Then in the advantages, say in advantage number 1, they give you some examples under that advantage. Please, my dear learner, don't use those examples. Those are just examples which are meant to make it clearer for you. You only pick the the advantages only and leave out the examples. At times we attempted as learners to also include the examples as part of our responses, yet that is not going to award you any mark. And last but not least, my dear learner, you are advised not to panic or to freeze, because at times we do a lot of freezing when we are given such a task. Don't panic or freeze on missing some aspects of the answer. Remember once again that the listening clip is always going to be repeated. So don't freeze. Just give yourself run your eyes once again through the questions, because you are always going to be given those few seconds after the first listening clip. They are going to tell you that now the first listening exercise is done. Now look at the questions once again before they run the listening once again. So use that time effectively always, my dear learner, and more often than not, you are going to find that you find the correct responses, and you are able to fill in the missing information in the second listening clip. So don't panic, my dear learner, you are going to get it. And as we conclude, my dear learner, I hope you have been able to pick that you need to listen well, listen consciously, not only with your ears, but with your mind as well, which means you reason things as you listen. And another important thing is the question analysis. And in exercise 1 especially, note the distractors. How do you identify the distractors? Identify the distractor or where the distractor is actually going to come from. And lastly, my dear learner, use the pre-test reading session effectively. Once you miss out on that one, I am afraid you are not going to do well, my dear learner. I hope that has been helpful.
Thank you very much, Bonisiwe, for that. And we're looking forward to seeing you again for another English language lesson.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. From Fives, unfortunately, that was the last lesson for you guys for the day. Do not go anywhere. Lerato and myself will be right back after this.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Hand washing is one of the best ways to keep from getting sick and staying healthy all the year long.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kwanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesiyimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngekubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane le-corona.
Welcome back to our viewers. Unfortunately, that was the last lesson for the day. How was your day, Lerato?
My day was fantastic. I actually learned a lot today, especially with Siswati. It was very interesting for me. How was your day today?
My day was awesome. I always enjoy the English language, so I was enjoying English language today. So yeah, could you please give us tomorrow's timetable?
Okay, grade 7s, Form 3s and Form 5s. I hope that you are ready for tomorrow's timetable. Tomorrow's timetable is as follows. We have religious education from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. followed by science from 2:30 p.m. to 3 or 8 p.m. followed by religious education from 3 or 8 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. followed by chemistry from 3:45 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. And then the last subject for tomorrow is physics from 4:25 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Thank you very much for that, Lerato. And just to remind our viewers that we are live from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. on YouTube and on Facebook. And of course, if you have questions for that relevant subject that is being taught, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number. Text us, please. Do not call us. As much as we would love to hear from you guys, your voices and everything, but please text us. Do not call us because, like I said, we're not going to answer.
Speaking of YouTube, please remember to subscribe to our channel so that whenever we are live, you get a notification.
Yes, thank you very much. And just to say, thank you very much for tuning in, you guys. It's a very, very lovely program. I'd like to give a young shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. Thank you very much for watching me every single day. Anyone you want to shout out to?
Well, I'd like to shout out to everyone who's watching, actually. Okay. But I'd like to shout out to my grandma, guys. Best support system, and my mom and my siblings. There's a lot. There's a lot.
You're putting me on the spot. I only shouted out to my mom. Anyway, I'll shout out to everybody. Thank you very much, you guys, for tuning in on Home Study on Eswatini TV. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a lovely evening. Stay safe. Stay at home. Good night. Bye.
Bye.